Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. We are one of 742 Arsenal podcasts, and with us tonight, it's only Kris Carpenter. Are you right, cheeky monkey?
Hello, Daniel. How are you?
Saddened because you come and do a show and you get nothing but questions for you.
Well, I mean, that's lovely of people. I can't promise I'm going to give answers that people will like, but I will do my very best. So it's very, very nice for people to miss me. Desperate, maybe.
I think you've had 4 separate questions that have been marked for Kris.
How many of them are taking the piss out of me there? That's the question.
Oh, none of them are from Jason.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Bring them on then.
Right. Also with me tonight is the wonderful Josh, who has finally seen the light and smashed up his Apple Mac. You all right, Josh?
Hi. It's not smashed up, but I wish I kind of did.
What happened to it?
Very sad. Catastrophic graphics card failure, which results in me needing to buy a new motherboard. And as my Mac is apparently deemed vintage, you can't get one anymore.
Oh dear, sad times. My brother's got a Mac actually because he's an artist, and I think his one is about 10 years old and still running fine. So they're not all broken, but I still hate everything that is Apple based. In fact, we made my daughter. We went out for dinner on Sunday. We made her sit in the corner and all point and laugh at her because she's the only person out of all my circle of friends that has an Apple. There you go. That's enough to know about that. Right, no real hosting tonight. We're just going to have a chit-chat about the game. Kris, Sporting, what did you think?
Um...
Thank you, Kris. And what did you think, Josh? What a load of shit.
It wasn't very good, was it? Go on, Josh.
I mean, it happened, didn't it? That game.
It did happen.
It definitely occurred.
I just remember I did Did I do the show that night? I can't remember. No, I didn't. Oh, did I? I don't know.
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah, because I dropped out. You
That's
came in
right.
to replace me.
That's right. God, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was all about one thing and one thing only, really, wasn't it? But yeah. Sorry. Go on, Josh.
Yeah, I was going to say the main bit of real excitement was probably Jeremy Matheu getting sent off. That was about it, really. I think the Sporting came out into the game and, it was kind of a team that or a performance you'd expect from like an English team against a team that likes to play football. A lot of tactical fouling.
Don't really think they came to play the game, did they? They only had one thing in mind, and that certainly wasn't a beautiful game, was it?
I mean, to be honest, look at their side versus our side. That's the only way they could have got anything out of the game, and to be fair, they got a point out of it. We just lacked a lot of creativity in that game, I think, and we just couldn't break down what they were doing, missing, a lot of first choice creative players in there, resting Torreira and Xhaka, Ozil not in the side as well, just meant that, the game was kind of very stunted. And adding to that, the horrific injury that Danny Welbeck received in that game just kind of killed any chance of it, I think, being exciting, really, as normally happens.
Someone on Twitter asked me how bad was the Welbeck injury, and all I saw was him on the stretcher looking all right. I went, I'll probably be back in a couple of weeks. And then someone said, no, he snapped his ankle. Went, has he? And then watched it back and went, oh, fuck, yeah, the way he landed. I hadn't seen the way he landed, so that's why I leave all the medical stuff to Dom.
His ankle went into places that I didn't even know ankles could go.
All places had places. And don't worry, listeners, because I know you're all tuned in waiting for us. We'll get to Xhaka later on. Don't worry about that.
Oh dear, no, John's not here, and I can't do it all on my own. Maybe I need to call John in as a last-minute substitute.
Trust me, I can go for all 4 of you, and that's no problem on that one. But on Sporting, just quickly, I mean, yeah, people will criticise it, but do you know what? They knew that they know we're going to qualify. They know that they are the better of the other 3 sides. They were never going to come and play. Why would they? And I think even if we did put out a slightly inferior side, they came for a point. They got the point. I don't really blame them, to be honest. There's no duty to play. They're not duty bound to turn up and play against us. So it might not have been a pretty spectacle, but it was what it was, and we claimed a point out of it. I think the downside for us is it killed momentum, and that's probably what we'll come on to with our next game. But yeah, it was a thing. It happened, and the Welbeck news is probably it is the main. I was going to say highlight. That's completely the wrong word. The main thing to take from it, and and we wish him well, obviously, because I think it was confirmed that he's broken his ankle, which I think myself and Jace called as it happened, unfortunately. So, yeah, sad times for a likeable chap.
Yeah, he's just had his second operation on it, and I believe he tweeted or put on Instagram a photo of him just out in the open now, set of crutches and a lovely new sock around his ankle.
Yeah, well, at least he's got a pair of socks out of it. I mean, that's all.
Yeah,
especially with winter coming up.
Don was saying to us, he's explaining about these things. He went, Darren Ramsey's break, although it is the middle of your leg, is much better because you've got, if the closer it is to a joint, the harder it is for that part of the body to heal. Because it's very fragile down there, and I think also with the foot, there's not as much as we saw with Santi. There's not as much blood flow down there and things like that. Not word for word what Don was saying, but that was the gist of it. I never even really thought about that. You always think, which would you rather snap your leg in half, or would you rather break your ankle? You think, well, I'd rather break my ankle. It's smaller, but no, seemingly not, because that is going to be a long time to heal. And then his contract is up at the end of the season, and Jason, John, and Don were talking on the last show. Actually, I think there might have been someone else on the last show as well. I can't remember. No one. It's just those three. Yeah, and then Jason was saying, well, do we give him a new contract at the end of the season? Because it looks like he's going to struggle to make it back for the end of the season. Would you give him a new contract, Josh?
Yeah, I think Emery obviously likes him as a player. He's been starting games for us. I think the true measure of whether or not we keep hold of him is what happens with Eddie Nketiah now that he's got this chance to really push on to the first team. It's that kind of third choice striker. I think that's probably a question back to you guys as well. What happens with Nketiah? Because prior to this Welbeck injury, I was happy to let him go out on loan in January because I think he needs it.
He does need something. I need something like that because we've got two more games coming up in that group. We've got Volska and Qarabag, who have both failed to qualify, which is kind of obvious that we knew the top two. I mean, we knew that us and Sporting would go through from that, but you're not really going to be able to show much against those two teams, are you? Because they're both quite rubbish. I mean, between them, they've only won 2 games out of 8 in there. So, do you think he's going to start, Kris?
I think he probably will. I'm probably going to upset a few people here just for a change. I'm getting a little tired of the amount of people that are overhyping our young players, and I don't just mean Arsenal's young players. I mean the young players in England. And I know it's. I know the first thing people are saying is, well, if they were French, you'd like them. Well, it's not about that because. It's about the way that the UK, or say the UK, that's not fair. It's the way the English mentality is of, we've got the next greatest thing. If it isn't Phil Foden, it's Jadon Sancho. If it's not Jadon Sancho, it's Reece Nelson's the second coming of Pele. If you read Arsenal timelines, I'm not against young Arsenal players getting a chance. In fact, I'm completely all for it. I'd love to see, like you, Danny, a team of our own, quote unquote. But you have to put these things into perspective. And Eddie Nketiah is a player that we took from Chelsea because he's a prospect. And the key word there is a prospect. He came on against, at the time, a struggling Norwich, and fair play to him. He got a couple of goals.
So they were on their arse after running as ragged for 70 minutes.
They were, and he touched it in from 3 or 4 yards, didn't he? But he got the goal. All I would say is at this point, there's a very big difference between Danny Welbeck and Eddie Nketiah, and the biggest difference that I think a lot of people seem to be forgetting when they're talking about comparing the two is that they're two completely different positions. Nketiah is a centre forward and a centre forward only. Danny Welbeck is a wide forward. He's an England international. He's a centre forward. He can even play sort of in a midfield role if needs be. He's an experienced player. So the comparison is harsh. It's also unfair on Nketiah to say, well, Welbeck's injured, but we've got Nketiah. This is a lad who, like Emile Smith-Rowe, should be given, minutes here and there. Yes, these two Europa games would be ideal for him. But what I would say is just err on the side of caution. If he plays well and he gets a couple of goals, brilliant. Then give him some praise and give him his legs, if you will. But if he doesn't, don't hammer him. So it's all in moderation for me. I just think we're a little bit, as people actually saying we should bring Reece Nelson back from loan in January because he's doing so well in the Bundesliga. For what purpose? To sit on the bench again? It's mental. He's doing a good job over there. Leave him over there. Let him do what he's doing, and see what sort of player he comes back in the summer. I think we've probably got enough in forward areas for now. Let's be honest, if Nketiah doesn't make the grade, they'll probably just push someone further forward. And we've seen Mkhitaryan can play further up. They've got the two main strikers they can rotate. I don't think we're that short, really. And if we are, maybe we could go out in January and get Davor Suker.
You are right, though, because Welbeck, not only can he play in any one of our four attacking positions, he's more than willing to do it, and he'll run his arse off and turn you inside out. 6'1", so he's good in the air. He's only 28 in a couple of weeks' time, actually. So I still think he's got another 2 or 3 good years in him, don't you, Josh? If we sign him.
Yeah, I'd say definitely. As someone who recently turned 28, I've got plenty left in my locker to keep going.
I haven't.
Yeah, I would keep up. The fact that he does have a good engine as well, I think that's the thing that we could still get a good couple of years out of him before looking to have to move him on. It's down to Welbeck's mentality of what he wants to do. If he's happy, a bit like El Neni, how some people want to push him on, but the guy's happy sitting on the bench and he does a very good job for us when he comes off it. Welbeck can be that similar style. If he's happy with third choice, great. It means all the young players we've got coming through, we can give them more minutes in other competitions through loans, like we've seen with Reece Nelson. We can send out the likes of Nketiah to a Hoffenheim or someone in the French league like a Nice or a Monaco. And we know they'll get good time and good play time in a good standard of football against proper players.
To be fair, Josh, we could send Carl Jenkins into Monaco and he'd get a game at the moment the way they're playing. So
I don't like
true.
this.
And
I
the
don't
injuries.
I don't like people having a go at Jenkins, and he's a perfectly fine player.
No,
he had a good season on loan at West Ham, but everyone seems to think he's a joke figure. He's not. He's a professional player and he's a decent player, and he would be a number one right back for at least half of the Premier League.
Yeah, I think Josh would probably agree with me. I may be wrong, but I think he's a championship level. He's a backup fullback. He's never going to be a guy we'll rely on, but that's kind of all we need him for.
He's first choice, bottom of the half of the Premier League, top half of Championship.
Definitely.
I mean, when Brighton came to the Premier League, he was the backup or first choice right back I wanted to go to that club because they were short in that area. Now they've ended up with Montoya. They've gone above Carl Jenkinson, but that's the kind of level that he's at. Is newly promoted, but that he's at a club he likes as much as the next guy, especially us chatting here. And fair play to him. He does a job when called upon it.
Just on Welbeck as well, just before we leave him behind, not literally but metaphorically. Some Arsenal fans do make me laugh. There's a lot of sort of for and against with regards to this contract, and I would like to cast your mind back, if I may, to last season when a certain manager, I think he was French, was in charge at the time. I think he was anyway. And there was a discussion. Well, it's a point that needs to be made. There was a discussion that he was the one that sanctioned us giving Santi Cazorla a new deal because it was the right thing to do. And he got absolutely slated for it. Why are you giving away our money? It's our transfer funds. You French this, you done.
Well, but it depends on who is slating him and who is saying that. Most people would go,
that's true.
Well, yeah, but Santi, look at Santi this season at Villarreal. This fucker having a nightmare.
And my main point to this is there's a lot of people now saying, well, no, it's the right thing to do. We should be giving Welbeck this contract. But they're the same people that said it was wrong that we gave Santi Cazorla money when he was clearly never going to play for us again. I personally fall on the side of you have to stick with the decision that you'd made before he got injured. You can't let sentiment cross your path. Now, if you were planning to give Welbeck a new contract regardless, even if it was a 1-year deal or 6-month extension before the injury, then even with the injury, you still give him that. But to be honest, I think the decision was probably made that they weren't going to give him one, because if they were, surely it would have been offered by now. And Welbeck seems to be the sort of guy who's happy to be a backup player. So surely he would have signed it by now. The fact that hasn't happened suggests to me that they probably weren't looking to keep him. So unfortunately, I think I'd probably land on the side of letting him go at this point, particularly if we can get in a younger model, as it were, in the summer. But I wouldn't be annoyed. Or
Nelson, when he's playing for Hoffenheim, he's playing in all the positions that you'd expect Welbeck to play.
Yeah, the only air of caution on that one again is that I think Nelson, for me, if you look at Iwobi's rise, for example, it took him a good 18 months to 2 years before he was a proper, fully fledged regular. I think maybe one loan spell bringing Nelson back in is a little bit soon. I'd rather us go out and get sort of somebody who's 26, 27, who I'm trying to think of an example, but I've already used Suka. But someone of that kind of ilk of experience that is happy to come in.
Oh, can't have Suka. He's never played for Dortmund.
Olivier Giroud.
He'd do a job. Yeah, he's quite decent. But yeah, just someone. Stopgap's the wrong terminology, but just somebody who potentially would come in, would add some quality. Much like I'd like us to sign Ava Banega, for example. Somebody
isn't going to get the hump if they're not starting every game, and is more than willing to come on and do their job.
It's the same as like a third choice keeper, isn't it, Chris?
Exactly.
You either have a youth prospect in there, or you have a Richard Wright in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of talk that Juan Mata is going to run his contract down at United. He's a player I'd be quite happy for us to get on a free. And I know some people are saying, oh, well, it's a step down because we're taking United's cast-offs. Well, they took our biggest cast-off a year or so ago, and that didn't work out so well for him, did it? So I wouldn't be... I think we were in for Mata before, weren't we, before he went to Chelsea? So, somebody like that. We agreed
a fee and everything, and I think his agent said, oh, no, he's going to go to Chelsea now.
Else. Yeah, he'd be a good buy though if you could get him on a free. If somebody said to me, you can have Juan Mata or Danny Welbeck, new contract, I know which one I'd pick personally. I know that sounds harsh because he's got one leg at the moment, but it's just that's how I would have felt in the summer, and that's how I'd still feel now on that one.
Have we got any more to say about that game, or is it the least said the better?
Yeah, I think the least said the better.
Yeah, I think it was just nice to look at that Sporting team and go, oh, that's where that player is. Didn't realise they were there. And that was about it.
And it's good to see that Nani is still a massive shithouse, even after all these years.
It's hard to believe they're only 2 points off the lead in the Portuguese league, Pony League. That's why. It's not even a Farmers League, is it? It's more like a Brazilian exile league.
Don't start all that again.
So I'm just looking at the lineup. So no real surprises in the lineup. Would you say Cech now is the backup goalkeeper as he started this game, and Leno is playing out of his skin? I think it's done. Josh?
Yeah, I think it was just a natural switch that was going to happen at some point in the season when Leno got his chance.
Soon, though?
I mean, it was Cech's injury that did it, really.
That forced
and that was what gave him the opportunity, wasn't it? It was almost like it went under the radar. It wasn't like it was almost like Emery made a point of, I don't want to drop him. I want to almost stick by him to prove the point that nobody walked straight in. But as soon as Cech got injured, it's like, aha, I can put.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, but to be fair to Leno, he's taken the chance. I mean, you can't deny that. He's, we'll come on to Wolves in a minute, but yeah, he's taken his chance so far.
Yeah, he's certainly there on merit. I think if he chucked a couple in, then we would see Petr Cech back in here. I think it's the same as we saw at the beginning of the season with Aubameyang and Lacazette. Yep. Aubameyang started the season, wasn't scoring. Lacazette came in, took his chance. Aubameyang is now forced out on the wing.
As long as he doesn't go full Almunia, he should be okay. Right, let's move on to the Wolves game, Chris. What was your thoughts on the game?
Well, as you know, I have a very strict anti-stream policy, so I didn't watch this live, but I have gone back and seen it since for my sins, both highlights and full 90.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, I was with Dom on this one. I had a concern coming in that it might be one of those games. Wolves are very well organised. They were a cut above the rest in the Championship last year. We all know about how they're funded and all the dirty agency stuff.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, so we won't go over that. But that apart, they've got a good coach in Nuno. Sounds like a drink. Nuno Espirito Santo.
That's the only foreign name I can say. Nuno Espirito Santo.
It also is a line. I think if you watch it closely, it's also a line read to Reagan in The Exorcist at one point. Nuno Espirito Santo, I cussed you out. Yeah, but I think they're very well set up. They've got some very, very good players. They've got some quite unpredictable players as well. In like Cavallero, I think, who got the goal, and Adama Traore. You never know quite what you're going to get. But they're very well drilled. They're very well set up. They came to play. You can't knock them for that. They certainly set up with the idea of attacking us.
The opposite of Porto.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair to them, I think if we'd been sat here now on the end of a 2-0 loss, I don't think we could have complained. We got lucky, which again we'll probably come to in a sec. But yeah, overall, I did that thing at half time. I went, well, we're 1-0 down. We can come back from this. We'll get 2-1 out of this. And then with sort of 20 minutes to go, I went, I'll take a draw here. I'll take a draw. So it wasn't a great performance. In fact, that would probably be a bit of an understatement. It was a poor performance. But the one thing I would say is we played badly, let's be honest, but didn't get beaten. So that's probably the only positive. And maybe after Josh has had his say, we'll pick on some individuals after that.
Yeah, I was going to say that. On your point on Traore, I'd say myself and my fellow championship hipster would say I know exactly what you're getting with Adama Traore. Adama Traore. And none of you listened when I said he's got 0 end products. I said, he's super quick. And I was like, yeah, he's got no end products.
Who was the bloke with the dyed blonde hair?
That was him. Traore.
He was bloody quick.
Yeah, he's amazing on FIFA, basically, because FIFA have given him an end product, but he doesn't have one in real life. That's the difference.
And he's got a massive ass as well.
So I have a question for Kris regarding
Not you
Emery.
As well.
There is one thing I noticed about this. This is the first time Emery's come up against a back five for Arsenal. And we've struggled in first halves anyway with trying to break down or size up teams. And that's down to, just the fact of Emery getting used to each team, seeing how they're playing. And in the second half, I think we've put that down to why we're coming in stronger. How many back fives did he see in France? Because I think he struggled trying to break it down, and that's where most of it came, where he struggled, really.
Yeah, not many is the answer to that. I mean, there's a lot of teams in France that will play with a defensive setup, but it's more like a 4-5-1 type of setup, or 3 centre backs with 2 wing backs. Very rarely did you get any teams that set up with a 5. And typically when teams arrived at the PDP to play Paris, they would essentially would just set up in that defensive strategy, but it wouldn't be like your Neil Warnock or your Tony Pulis style 5 defenders. It would just be keep everyone behind the ball. I mean, even Lille did it the other night against the modern take on PSG setup from Tuchel. So he wouldn't be that used to it, and I don't think he'd have been very used to it in Sevilla either. My sort of main concern, I think, was how we set up. If we take the game to the opposition, the issue isn't there. But I never really felt like we tested the areas that they were weak, which was midfield, which ours went sadly missing. So I think it was more about how we performed than how we were set up. But that said, I do wonder how it might have been different if maybe he had have changed the system slightly. I think we needed more legs in midfield, which obviously we got in the second half a little bit more. But yeah, in answer to your question, not many times. There's not many teams in France that set up with 5 at the back.
Yeah, because I was going to say, as I said, that's one of the things that, looking back at it in hindsight, that's where we really, really struggled, was tactically trying to break them down. I think with Iwobi coming off and putting Guendouzi in, realising that we needed more bodies in midfield because there was just no space out on the flanks as well, the way that Wolves had set up. That weak point was Neves and Moutinho, who are great ball players. So, whatever pressure you put on them, even, the likes of, I'd argue, Chelsea's midfield, maybe Everton, certainly Everton's midfield, doesn't have that kind of ball players in them.
No,
they're on another level.
And to me, it was madness madness is probably a bit strong, but to me it was foolish maybe to not target Jean Moutinho, because he's a delightful player on the ball with time and space, and that's exactly what we gave him. If he's not particularly good in transition if you play through him or past him, and we never did. We never targeted that area. So that for me is, even Neves, he's quick-footed, but I wouldn't say he's particularly pacey over 10, 15 yards. So that's why I felt our midfield setup was probably wrong in this particular game, and maybe it wasn't a game for sort of technical players, more a game for pacey players. But obviously Iwobi came off and was the fall guy for that.
We were lucky, though. If we'd have been Wolves fans, we'd be going, we should have won that 3-1, because we were at times atrocious. Some of the sliding tackles that people were putting in, and didn't Xhaka give the ball away 13 times, Kris, trying to light your firework or something like that?
Don't worry, I was coming on to that. Yeah, he does, because he doesn't have a particularly good brain, and he switches off.
Or eyes, if you look at the past,
or eyes, or decision making, ability.
I'm a Xhaka fan.
Hang on, that pass was an awful pass to him from Kolasinac.
I will agree with that.
As a left-footed player, if you're playing a pass that is 2 yards to my right-hand side, that ball is never for me, ever. And I think that goes to any right-footed player. If you put a ball 2 yards to my left foot, that ball is so poorly played that I'm making the assumption, because I'm at such a level where I expect any player to be able to play a ball to my feet, or at least to my correct foot, that there must be a reason that you're playing it that badly.
So where was Torreira?
Torreira had
who he thought was right next to him.
Torreira had made a false run behind him, so he'd looked to drop back and then pushed forward. At that time, Xhaka's then looking at Kolasinac, which he should be doing, because Kolasinac is evidently going to try and give him the ball at some point, and it's just gone across. And unlike some people who said it was just outside our area, it's halfway up the halfway line. It's almost in the centre circle that ball
middle of our half
ends up. It's even further up than that.
Let's pull the curtain back for the listeners. As probably you'll all be aware, we have a WhatsApp group, and this was a heated debate, it'd be fair to say, amongst people from all types of the UK and abroad, about whose fault it was and for what reasons. Now, I think, to be fair, I think the debate there was good sides on all sides of it. I think there was right on all sides. Josh is bang on in the extent that the pass was poor. I'm not defending that. My biggest concern is Xhaka as a whole, and that sort of, I think the stat is he's made 5 mistakes that have led directly to goals in his time in the Premier League, which is a worrying stat. And it's the fact that he's just not mobile. He just doesn't seem to react quick enough. And I know that that pass was poor. You're absolutely right. But I think if you put Torreira in that position, or going back to the old days of Gilberto Silva, who wasn't necessarily the most nimble, but they get something on that. And more to the point, regardless of whether it's a poor ball or not, you get your body in the way and you stop the pass going. You don't just let it go. And that was, and yes, there was 2 phases of play after that where we still didn't deal with the cross and we didn't deal with the runner to finish. But it's a wider problem for me with Xhaka. And I know people say that, oh well, he all these things he does sort of off the ball and his passing, and he makes Torreira a better player. I'm not buying it. And the biggest myth of all of Xhaka for me, and I'm going to upset John with this one, this myth about the second assist. Oh God, it infuriates me. The idea that a second assist now can be a 5-yard, what I like to call the Nemanja Matic pass, sideways with 5 yards of pace on it. That's not a second assist.
Oh, the Ramsey assist, you mean?
That's the one.
The Ramsey assist, yeah.
That's the one. It winds me up. To me, a second assist is when you play a raking ball out to the flank and then the winger crosses it in for the striker to head. That's a second assist. Or you play a ball through the lines that the striker runs onto and squares it for his mate. If not, it's not a second assist. And it's not who touched the ball last type of assist. And that's the bit that bugs me. And Xhaka is, yes, he's a very passable midfielder, but he's not a very good holding midfielder. He's not particularly good in attacking areas. He doesn't have the mobility to get around the pitch. And I'm not just saying this because Guendouzi is the next logical option. I'd be happy, as I said before, I'd be happy if we went out and got an Eva Banega type of player, somebody who's just a little bit more aware and a bit quicker footed. And yeah, he did score a lovely free kick at Palace, and yes, he has got some lovely tattoos and whatever. But I'm just not sold, and I would love to know his stats. He must be one of these players that trains brilliantly.
Stat padding, because
Yeah.
he had 97 accurate passes, and the players in our side that had the most passes complete was Bernd Leno in 95, Holding 94, Mesut 91, and Torreira in 90.
But imagine two Torreiras or two.
To me, to you, shouldn't really count as stats, should it?
I'm not saying they're not important passes, because you're in a midfield area. Your job is to move the ball, but that's all well and good. But you've got to do the rest. You've got to be self-aware. You've got to do the tracking.
It's just very lazy to see the ball coming across you and then just say, "I'm going to leave it for the bloke." No, have a look, get it, and have it. If he'd have touched it, he could have got another pass completion. if he'd have trapped it and given it to Torreira.
So I think the way that ball comes in, and if he's controlling that with his right foot, which is what I'm going to add, he's not cleanly controlling that ball. He's going to get robbed of it in midfield anyway.
Yeah.
I think looking at that pass has put him in a horrible situation. And yeah, as we said, there were also two big phases of play. Bear in mind, our back four is fairly static at that point. Bellerin's not caught upfield. Kolasinac has just made the pass, so he's still in the area. And who's the one still closing down the man? Granit Xhaka. All right, he doesn't get something on it. He's chasing back on it. He's the one that's put the slide in as well. Unfortunately, he doesn't get anything caught on it.
When he slid back, I thought, "Oh God, could this be a penalty?" And looking back, it could have been so close to a penalty because he didn't get the ball, did he? But
but we saw that at Palace, didn't we?
Yeah.
There's other players in the team that we might say, if they turn the ball over, that's it. Head goes down. Don't track back. At least,
we can probably touch on him in a minute.
Yeah, at least now in this season, we're seeing, players track back and having to pick the ball up or at least trying to get something on it. There's that fight.
It's not a witch hunt, it's not. It's if you have an opinion, it's like, how dare you have an opinion? We're not. I think that the way I sort of look at it is, I see so many Arsenal fans that say for and against certain players. When you've got pundits or other media or other people who do talk a lot of sense, and there are those pundits who do talk some sense, and that's hard to believe.
That's when they're excluded then.
Yeah, when they're saying the same things and saying, I don't really understand what Xhaka is or does, or sometimes that's a little bit lazy. But when you're getting other fans of other clubs as well, that something's not quite there. I'm not saying he's not a bad footballer. I'm just saying that if he was in the El Nene position, if you will, the backup for the main man, I'd be like, yep, no worries. But I think as a first choice, I just think it's an area we can do better in.
Don't you have to wonder though that he's a player that was deemed undroppable by the previous regime and is seemingly undroppable under the current regime as well?
Yeah, I do.
But he's obviously got something in there, and they're footballing minds that are, I would totally put my hands up and say, far greater than mine. There's stuff they've forgotten that I barely even know.
That's why I say he must be a good trainer, and I just think that his decision making at times as well, it baffles me. I'm all for a cynical pull of the shirt or stopping somebody on the run, and I love the fact that we've got someone like Lichtsteiner full shithousery on command now. I love that, but Xhaka seems to make those challenges not to stop attacks, but to cover for an error that he's made to stop attacks afterwards. And those challenges that he gets booked for time and time again, are usually as a result of a mistake he's made in the first place.
Yeah, but people shouldn't put him in a position like Josh was saying. They've given him the ball where if you want him to take it on his left foot, you put it in front of him. You don't put it behind him because then he's going to have to turn around. So you don't put him in a position where he can fuck up like that, because every other aspect of his game I'm really happy with. His attacking play, his breaking up play, I think the bond that he's building with Torreira is fantastic. The way that he stops going and getting the ball out of midfield defence, which was a problem last season and part of this season. The way Torreira go and gets the ball, and then Xhaka does the majority of the passing when he gives the ball to him. I think they're a perfect combination in midfield too. I wouldn't want to see anybody else come in and do that. Plus, he's hard as fucking nails, and there's no one better at the club to play in that midfield with Torreira, is there?
I do agree with you on the partnership. I do agree with that.
And that is the thing, it's only going to get better with time. And plus, Monreal wouldn't have done that, would he? Monreal wouldn't have left him up shit creek without a paddle with that stupid ball. And
Monreal can pass.
Yeah, Kolasinac has got no future at left back or left wing back or at this club. He's going to be one of the first players that will be leaving, maybe January, maybe the summer, depending if we can get another left back in.
He was, having watched the game back, I can't remember the last time.
He doesn't fit.
He was awful though. I mean, I know he's bought as a attacking winger. I mean, you've got to have some.
Three at the back, wasn't it? And that died death.
But he was Andre Santos bad. I mean, he was. He couldn't pass. He couldn't head. He couldn't tackle. He was ball. I mean, a Premier League footballer ball watching. I mean, you don't get that at Cardiff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But that's nothing against Cardiff. I mean, you just don't get that even at the bottom level.
Yeah, but what do we do about that midfield two at the moment then? What would be your answer?
Well, I mean,
play Ramsey rather than him, depending on the game.
What in the midfield? What with Torreira?
Yeah,
Guendouzi for me, all day long.
I mean, even the manager's on that, right? The chance, looking at the halftime substitution. I mean, looking at the bench, you've got your option of, a full international player that's played at European competition. He's
captain of his country, isn't he, Xhaka?
No, I'm talking about Aaron Ramsey.
Oh, right. Well, he was
on the bench.
Of his country, yeah.
Yeah, was captain of his country. And you're looking at your bench and going, right, I need to change this in the second half. And you're going, and no offence, Kris, for a kid that's just stepped out of the second division of France over a player that's, scored very important goals for us.
But Guendouzi's going to be up for it. He's going to run his arse off, and he's like an excited terrier running around.
But you saying Aaron Ramsey wouldn't be up for it when he's come up?
No, I don't think he would.
I think he has.
No, I think he's demoralised. I think he's just biding his time. He's going full. Who was that bloke? Steve McManaman, where he went the last half, the whole of that last season in Liverpool, making sure he didn't get injured. I think Ramsey's on the McManaman train.
They're also different type of players, aren't they? The thing I like about Guendouzi is not just about passion. That's PASHUN.
Passion.
I think a lot of people are misunderstanding his abilities for, like, as you said, Danny, excitable puppy. He doesn't just charge around the pitch. And something I must admit, I actually disagree with our Steve on this. He says he takes too many touches before he moves the ball on. I actually think we need a player like that, which ironically is what Xhaka's good at, slowing things down and actually taking the touches. Guendouzi is a really good balance of the two things, because when he loses the ball, he has around the pitch, sort of Man City style, to win it back, and he's aggressive.
Johnny stats: 83% pass success rate, 35 passes, 29 of 35 were successful.
There you go. And
he's still developing as a player, though, isn't he? We don't know what his end position's going to be, whether it's going to be a central midfielder, a more attacking midfielder. And the fact that he doesn't know means the opposition doesn't know. And the other thing I've noticed about him is when the celebrations go on, he's one of the first ones to get involved. I think everyone at the club loves him.
He's a
breath of fresh air.
But I think with Ramsey, I don't think Ramsey, I don't think he can play in that position. I think that's been proven a few times now. So I think it'd be harsh to have a go at Aaron. But I do agree that, to Josh's point there, I think probably Ramsey would have been the one you'd have brought on, but not in that position. I think you'd have had to have changed.
Where would Ramsey play then? Because we played with a 3-man midfield at that point. He came in at Guendouzi came in at that kind of focal point, didn't he? Almost, with Ozil going out to the wing.
I don't think Ramsey can play in a 2-man midfield, as in the whole big two. I think he's got to be in a 4-4-2 or a 4, as you said, Josh, a 3 in midfield. And I don't think he's good enough to play 10 either.
that's where I was a bit confused that he didn't come in there. Now, perhaps to your point, Kris, we are lacking ball carriers, and I think that's one of the things we really need.
Which is why Mkhitaryan is getting game time, and I know a lot of people are. There's a growing discontent with Mkhitaryan to the point where it's almost getting to Ozil level. Sadly, I think the people that are getting on Mkhitaryan's back are the same people that never watched him in a Dortmund shirt, and they're the same people that only watched him in a Man United shirt when Jose Mourinho was basically skull fucking him into submission, playing him in the wrong places. Mkhitaryan is a wonderful footballer if used correctly. The problem is we've got two others that play in that position as well. So it's, he's
not a winger, is he?
No, he's not.
He's just very talented.
He can play as a wide forward, but he's far better in behind the centre forward. And he's almost filling 3 or 4 different roles for us this season. And I'd love to see him get a run, but the problem is if you do that, where do you play Ozil? And if you play Ozil, where do you play Aubameyang? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
I mean, I could say and rattle on with that point again. We're not playing with wingers, so the fact that Mkhitaryan is a wide playmaker. I think that's the position he really held at Dortmund, was wide playmaker. He'd drift out to the flanks to then create.
But you can't have too many players in a team with that free role, though, can you? Because everyone will end up having a free role, and it'll be chaos.
We've got a manager who is used to having players like that in those kind of positions, and even looking to the point of Manchester City, they've got a midfield that is very fluid. There's a couple that stick to a certain position. Fernandinho never ventures out of that kind of 18-yard block in the middle of the field.
And he was best at the game last season, and this season he's brilliant as well.
On the game as well. One other thing that I must mention before I forget, we shouldn't gloss over the fact that our 60 or 70 million quid centre forward missed an absolute sitter, playing as a centre forward where he wants to play. And I do think that...
Is that the one where he hit the post?
Yeah, it come across him. And
it was Lacazette that hit it, and the goalkeeper. Someone blocked it, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm talking the Aubameyang one, which to me was glaring. And I do...
unlucky. Didn't he kind of get it at a bit of an obtuse angle? I'm not sure what an obtuse angle is.
No, I think as Dom said on the radio show,
is that the ball that Bellerin put in?
I can't remember. I think it was, wasn't it? I think
Bellerin.
Yeah, Hector had a couple that went in. Yeah. Because Lacazette also had that chance as well, that it was a more or less open goal with a load of bodies flying left, right, and centre.
Yeah. I mean, we starved Lacazette of service, and Aubameyang. I think the thing with Aubameyang that worries me a little bit is I think that some of us are doing that thing we do when we've got something shiny and bright and new, where we basically just say, oh yeah, but he's doing really well, and his quality. Don't get it wrong, he's a very good forward, but as I said at the time we signed him, and I stand by it now, he's not polished. He had the brilliant season at Dortmund as a centre forward, but he was also given free rein license basically just to score goals. He's going to have to work harder to score goals like that in the Premier League, and he has been given chances in that centre forward role, and he's not really taken them. So
that's a really good point as well, Kris. I think is back to the back five thing as well. It's another 2 strikers that rarely played against back fives in their career.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's not to defend Lacazette, who was poor as well. But...
How you play against a back 3 is so different.
Yeah, because as soon as you attack, back 3 becomes a back 5. But do you think that Aubameyang has been at his best this season when he's come on with half hour to go and people are breathing out of their arse, and then you get someone the speed of him coming on and ripping them apart? Do you think that could possibly be the future?
I mean, it's an expensive substitute to have.
Emery didn't buy him, did he? So maybe it's not really his problem.
I'm not convinced the team works with 2 centre forwards, and I'm not convinced that I still think Aubameyang can play comfortably as a wide forward. I really don't see why everyone gets so uptight about it. The problem you've got is that, as Josh has said a few times as well, you have to have balance on the other side. whether that be Iwobi or whether that be Mkhitaryan. You have to have balance on the other side, and I think we struggle when we've got a certain German number 10 in the same side as Aubameyang. That's the elephant in the room, I think, here. I think it's one or the other.
Doesn't it seem a little bit this season that when you have players coming off the bench and doing well, and then they come off the bench and they do well, and they do that 2 or 3 games, you think, right, you've made your way to the first team. And as soon as they get in the first team, they go, not really doing it. That's happened with Iwobi. That's happened with Aubameyang. Yeah, that's probably just they're the most obvious too. I mean, Lacazette did it. He was out at the beginning of the season, come on, and he's kept his place. But some of these players, like, what isn't Iwobi right-footed? I was watching what feet people were using during the game, and Holding's left-footed, Mustafi's right-footed, Iwobi's right-footed, but he seems to play better when he's on the left-hand side. So a couple of times during the game, you saw like a run around with Mike Reid. They go ready, steady, and everyone quickly swaps sides, and you think, well, you're going to have to try and figure out what Iwobi is best at doing. Because as a right-footed player, you would think he'd be better on the right. But I think he's had so much time playing on the left, even when he first came in for us 3 or 4 seasons ago, that he's got used to playing on the left. But there again, isn't it like the Iron Robbins situation where you always know they're going to cut in at the same point?
Cut in the same. But then Iron Robbins made a career out of that, and people still can't. They still can't stop it. This is why it's made me chuckle quite a lot when I've seen. There's quite a lot of talk that to attempt to balance the books, PSG are going to let Julian Draxler go in January, and I've seen quite a lot of Arsenal fans say, "Oh no, he's overrated. He's this, he's that."
Who's the bloke at Fulham that people kept going on about the German? Yeah,
no,
he was the next one, wasn't it?
Oh, Seri.
No, Seri, that was Kris. But I mean, winger. Schürrle. Oh, we got to get him. Oh, he's come to Fulham. What's he done? Apart from take his wages home in a wheelbarrow.
Schürrle is a perfectly passable Premier League wide player, but
you
for
look
me,
brilliant
like
at Germany at times.
Draxler's another level when he can play on both sides. He's comfortable on both feet, and if a player like that was available for a decent price, absolutely, yeah, who wouldn't? I mean, I think it'd be mad. You'd be mad not to try that. And he's the sort of player that's on the bench at PSG, so he'd be used to it at Arsenal.
If we did get him, what would be your front 4 formation with him then, or would you just say to him, look, every now and then swap with someone?
Because
Aubameyang has got to play, hasn't he? I mean, looking at his contract and all the money he's on, you can't not play him. And Lacazette is the player that we've wanted for years, the one who's going to be able to get goals, as we saw, goals out of nothing.
I don't think we should be afraid of dropping players because of how much we paid for them.
We've had too many years of not dropping players.
I honestly, it's an impossible thing to answer that. In terms of who I play, because the nicest possible way, if you've got Draxler or Iwobi, you're probably going to play Draxler. But I don't know. It's the Ozil issue is what you've still got.
That's a couple of times that you've said that now. Everything's coming back to Ozil.
Yeah, just because
it's a matter of whether if Ozil has a good game, Arsenal have a good game. And if Ozil doesn't, then we've got no one really else to come in there and do that. Apart from maybe possibly Mkhitaryan, but doesn't seem to want to play him in that free role.
I would. It's a real shame that Mkhitaryan isn't a bit more of a physical type of player, because when we converted Santi Cazorla into that deep lying playmaker, can you imagine
being on a winger?
Yeah, can you imagine Cazorla with Torreira next to him? And that would be absolute sex.
No one would touch the ball on the other side.
They really wouldn't.
A couple of times we did really, really good long pinpoint passes down the other end of the field. I think that might have been Torreira that was doing that, was it?
Yeah,
absolutely stunning balls he was pulling off, right down into the corners.
And those two, what I'm thinking aloud there is if there was a way you could get Mkhitaryan into a slightly deeper central midfield role, almost to pick up the ball from Torreira and then move it through Ozil through to a centre forward, that would be amazing. But then if you had a player like Draxler, would that bring out the best of Ozil again? I don't know. And it's essentially what I'm after is I don't think we're ever going to play with wingers in this formation, but I want a wide forward who has a trick or two, almost like Iwobi has done this season, but just someone with that, that little bit of explosion, that little bit of power, that little bit of pace, that little bit more polished. And we have to remember we're Arsenal. If you've got an opportunity to upgrade, you've got to take it. As cutthroat as that is, it's be loyal to Danny Welbeck or sign a World Cup winner. Do you know what I mean? It's sometimes you've just got to take that sort of element of saying, what do we want to be? And so same with if Martial was ever available, someone like that, you'd be mad not to try. You wouldn't get him off United while that shithouse is there, but you know what I mean. That's it's why I was disappointed that we didn't buy or didn't complete the opportunity we had with Thomas Lemar, because he's not really he hasn't had the greatest of starts at Atletico Madrid, and he'd be absolutely perfect for what we're doing now. But I think
I'd also like to see it. That if we did get someone who was really, really creative on the right hand side, that Bellerin wouldn't have to keep getting forward and keep being caught. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact Bellerin has got the pace that he's got, we would be in a lot more trouble when he goes forward and he does those crosses, because his crossing isn't the greatest in the world. He's got some assists. He's got 4 assists this season, and he's had some brilliant games. But his job is a right back. And I don't like it when I see him all the way going forward with the ball, because then the other 3 have to all shuffle across, like the little one said, roll over, and they all have to move a little bit. And then there's a big hole, because then the attackers can exploit because now you've got playing 3 at the back. And so it would be nice that Bellerin wouldn't have to do that all the time, because Iwobi's not known for his crossing, and Iwobi's coming on. He's a much better player this season. Everyone's better player this season. Yeah. So Josh has just put something. I was going
to say, Josh has got a point to make. I think
Did you cut yourself off, Josh?
He was chatting away to himself.
My internet died.
I wondered why it's just me and Kris for the last 5 minutes. Go on. What we want to say, and I'll tell you if we've already talked about it.
I was talking about Aubameyang and Lacazette.
Oh, go on.
About how I wouldn't start. I'd be starting one or the other. I wouldn't be starting both, and having more creativity behind them to deal with that focal point, that new focal point. But going with what you're probably saying on Lemar, I imagine you're talking still about wide playmakers, perhaps wingers.
And while you were away, I was saying if only Mkhitaryan was a bit more physical, because I'd love to see him in the quote-unquote Santi Cazorla role, playing from deep, playing it through the lines as a deep line playmaker. But I don't think that will work, sadly. But it's just one of those I would have loved to have seen.
And Draxler possibly been available.
He had that excellent game in the Europa League, didn't he, when he played at 10? Yeah. And he was basically trotting back to the 2 holding players, picking the ball up from them,
and then moving
dribbling it, carrying it up the field.
Yeah, I love
that's the player. That's the player we're missing. We're missing someone who can do that. We saw glimpses in the Wolves game that Mesut was having to come back, pick up the ball from the left back position to carry it upfield, because no one else was really doing it. I don't think anyone likes it, because then we're going with, well, he's not where he's most potent, and then he's becoming a passenger.
And the same people that moan about Ozil, not providing in the final third, are the same people that are moaning that he's not tracking back, when the reason he's probably not being active in the final third is because he's busy tracking back, trying to win the ball back. So you can't have it both ways,
He's not just sitting in the centre circle, in a recliner chair, flicking playing cards into an upturned top hat, going, is anyone going to pass me a ball yet?
Let us know.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. He could do more. This is not defending him, but I do think this argument of he's our highest paid player and he does fuck all. I just think that's such a lazy argument. Alexis Sanchez is a similar player, and nobody says anything about him. I mean, I know it's a different club; it's a bad example, but I do think I couldn't give a monkeys if Mesut Ozil's paid 54 grand an hour. I really he probably is actually. I meant a minute, but I don't really care what their wages are. That's not my business. I let the club mismanage that. But if he's in the side, play to his strengths, and we're not. So you can't just blame a player when we're not playing to his strengths. You remember when he played against Napoli? Do you remember? And he got that goal, and that's the Ozil I want. That's where we play to his strengths.
Was that the same one that he missed a penalty in?
Yes, yeah. He scored that delicious goal where he sort of came onto it at the edge of the box, and that's the sort of mobile Mesut that we want. But you have to build the team around him to play that way. And
I'd also say as well, it's not like we're under the previous regime where he was being played at all costs.
No, God no.
We've already seen, and it's been pretty public, that he's had a falling out with his manager because he's not playing every game and he's got to work hard. He's not given this free rein to get into the side.
Yeah.
So he's obviously there. He's obviously there. Yeah, he's obviously there on merit. He even went up to Newcastle, didn't he, this season?
Who'd have thought? Well, he is the 4th highest appearance maker at the club at the moment. 208 games, 41 goals.
On
He's
his
catching up
day,
Monreal.
on his day, he's a match winner. That's the thing. He's a genuine world-class footballer on his day. And if we pick and choose the games we use in him, then so be it. I mean, that's the way it is. But the facts speak for themselves. If he wasn't creating chances, I'd say fair enough. There's an argument, but he doesn't have control over the fact that he's creating chances and we're not taking them, or he's providing those mythical second assists that people are so adamant that other people are providing all the time, but they forget that Mesut's doing exactly the same week after week. That's my only argument, really. But
I would say his assists are down. He's only got one this season. He's only got one this season, and he's averaging a goal every 3 games, which for a guy in that position, would you say is about the norm?
Yeah.
To be honest,
could probably go up a little bit, but
I mean,
every week.
So David Silva, as a comparison, has got 5 goals.
Yeah.
But look at the team he's in comparison.
Yeah.
That team is scoring 6.
Than that Man City team with Mahrez and Bernardo Silva either side would be. I mean, can you imagine?
Exactly.
Equally, as in the current Real Madrid side, would probably struggle because they aren't the side that they were when he left them. So it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? You can only play with what you've got around you, and we're not getting the best out of him yet. But if he goes on a run, people will soon forget about the games he hasn't performed in, if you like. And Thierry Henry didn't turn up for big games. People forget that.
Yeah, I mean, 70 minutes in as well. We're just kind of looking at it, and I put the tweet out. I think the honeymoon period for Emery was over because everybody was starting to turn. Really starting to turn at that point.
I think we do have to look at this and say, we are unbeaten in 16, which is great, but we also haven't won in 4 now. So we do have to sort of, put it in perspective. Like I say, the goal was fluke. Let's make no bones about it. It was a cross. And Wolves will rightly feel that they should have got more out of it, but they didn't.
I did have to send a written apology to my mate. One of my really, really good friends is a Wolves fan, and I think Emery has put an extra coat of paint on the crossbar this season, because not only did Aubameyang hit it, but my God, Morgan Gibbs-White, what a player he is!
Yeah,
as well. 19 years old, he destroyed Spurs last week when they played them, and he just, my God, what a hit that was.
We should also give a quick mention to the new Jens Lehmann as well, because he had a game, didn't he? He was fantastic on the day. So we should also give him a nod. Made a couple of really good saves, but and Rob Holding as well. He seems to have played himself into that side pretty much now.
I think Leno has become, when we signed Czech, they said that on his Chelsea stats he would make you X number of points per season. I think that's what Leno is doing straight away. So we should have lost that game 3-1, 4-1. I mean, Josh, if you'd have had a card, I think most of ABW would have signed that condolences card for your Wolves, mate, because they were robbed. They were mugged, robbed, and ruined. How they didn't score another 2 or 3 goals in the last couple of minutes with Holding and Mustafi just sliding in like ducks on ice, missing everything. And that, like you said, that bloke, the one with the blonde hair, that if he'd have had anything about him finishing ability, he could have got 2 goals in the last 5 minutes of the game, possibly.
Same with the Spurs game, really, wasn't it? I mean, they were outplayed for long periods of time in that game, Wolves, but they still were robbed of that goal that was onside. They could have got a point off Spurs. So I mean, they are a very good side. This isn't a crisis, but it's important that we come back off the international break. Who is it we've got after? Is it
away at Bournemouth, who luckily lost at the weekend? Then Wolfska.
And then it's United after that, isn't it?
No, Spurs on the
Spurs
Sunday.
Then United.
Yeah, then United.
Yeah, so I mean,
a couple of warm-up games, and then we've got 2 big ones coming in 3 days.
It's just
Wednesday. It's
just really important that we, no, this winning run was fantastic, but we knew it wasn't going to last forever. What's important now is that we stabilise a little bit, and we get back onto that sort of winning trail as soon as we can. I mean, away at Bournemouth would be a good starting point for that.
Do you think it would be good to get a loss against Bournemouth or Wolfska just to get that winning run out of the way, so there's less pressure?
No losses ever. No,
not in the Premier League. No, I mean Voska in the Europa League because it's a meaningless game. And I didn't mean lose 3 points in the Premier League because.
Oh no, I don't think
say that.
I don't think losing any game because it's all momentum. We saw Europa League
pressure though. More momentum, more pressure.
Yeah, but I mean,
even. Sorry, Chris.
No, so I was just going to say it depends on the side we pick, of course, but it's an opportunity for those fringe players to get games. Is
it going to be an Olympiakos, the usual end of group stage games where everybody gets a game?
Possibly, yeah, possibly.
Like I look back at Wikipedia and I go, this ex-Arsenal player, they played one game for Champions League game, final group game. So many players have only got one appearance, and it's always from those fixtures. And I think we're going to see a few more of those. So are you both, Josh, are you happy with how we are developing as a side from game to game? I know we all expected Emery to do the usual half-time card shuffle and manage to sort it out and come back and winning. But was that a bit of a sign that he is struggling at times? Because I'm quite happy with the progression of the team is making.
Yeah, I think he's still struggling with the first half of games, trying to work teams out. But I think that's just down to a new league, and he's just trying to feel every team out. The fact that I think the way to look at it is see what happens in the second half of the season when the reverse fixtures occur and see how we take it from that point of view. I also look at the thing, and I think it's a big issue, is the fact that this was a 5 at the back. It's a completely different tactical setup to any team that we've played in the Premier League so far.
Does anybody else play that still 3-5 at the back? 3 while attacking, 5 while defending?
Not that we've seen.
Newcastle did it, didn't they? At Chelsea, against Chelsea.
Against Chelsea they did. They didn't do it against us, though.
No.
That's the thing, is they've also got to do it against us. Everton can go to a back 3, but they didn't against us as well. So it's certainly become less common. We might see it with Bournemouth, because Bournemouth have started doing it. That's where I'd perhaps look at it.
If you look at it overall, though, I mean, if people had said that we'd be 1 point, was it 1 point outside the top 4 at this stage in the Emery era? I think most people would be pretty happy. I mean, it's not like United under Moyes at this stage, is it? Let's be honest. We're not scratching our ass looking for points away at Cardiff and Huddersfield and whatever, are we? We performed
3 points away from Spurs in 4th.
Yeah, so who have had their best start ever, haven't they, or some shit? So.
Of the unbeaten teams that are at the top, they've all played us. But none of them have played
each other
big side. That's all starting to come along now.
Yeah,
because Chelsea plays Spurs after the international break. You then end up with Manchester United play Liverpool. City and Liverpool still got to play each other as well. Whereas we've already played, 3 of the top sides, and as you say, we've got Spurs and United coming up very quickly. So we're going to start getting through those. So the points that we've perhaps, that lead that they've got is almost false from that kind of thing, because they've played a lot of easier sides more consistently, or caught us very early on.
And don't forget, I'm really looking forward to the Manchester City versus Financial Fair Play fixture. That's going to be a good game. Be interested to see who wins that one.
Josh reminded me of something I was thinking about earlier, Chris, where he said getting the reverse fixtures. Now, people have got to remember that Emery has never played against, in the Premier League, he's only played a handful of Premier League teams in European competitions. And you have, as a manager, you have your own database in your brain about, I played Bournemouth this last season, they like to play like this. And you'll have a database of English teams, English managers, English players. He hasn't got any of that. Every single game he comes up again is brand new for him. And so, Josh was saying, second half of the season, he'll go, right, they did this first game, the opposite fixture, and that's when we'll be able to see improvements in him as a manager and us as a team, won't we?
Yeah, I mean, he's a meticulous statistician.
Video watcher.
He likes his late night video sessions. John Welsh does as well, I think. But
all barmaids.
But he is still learning, and it's not just about the oppositions and the formations. It's also about the simple things like certain grounds, wet weekends in Stoke, and all that jazz.
Where you made an error last time, and
certain styles of play, certain managers, tactics. There's also a lot of what I would call lazy managers in the Premier League that will forget that not forget, but because Arsenal's not the manager. anymore, they'll still think, "Oh, Arsenal, or we can get at them, or we can, we can put them up in there. We can
Rough
kick
them
them
up
off
a little bit."
Park." Yeah, exactly. They got soft touch. Though some softies. There will still be that stigma.
Were you taking a piss out of Josh then for being a Northerner?
No, but there will.
I thought I was back at work for a second.
Down to mine.
There will still be that stigma of managers that think that we're still the same old Arsenal, even though
not.
we've changed the whole setup and the manager and everything else. So there will still be that attached to us for the time being. And Emery has the opportunity to almost take advantage of that at the moment. So yeah, it'll take time, but we're ahead of schedule. I think there's a lot of people who said
ahead, I'd say.
Yeah, a lot of people said they'd have been happy if we finished in the top sort of 7 or 8 in the first season. Well, we're way ahead of that. I said all along, I still think we'll finish third. I stand by that. And I say it's bloody November as well. It's a long time to go, and we're all playing for bloody second place anyway. While Petrodollar FC race away with it. So
you raised a good point there about are we happy? Should we do the FIFE's forum bit now? If I type it in there, there's the FIFE's forum question and the answers. So one of you two take it and off you go.
I haven't even seen it, so Josh, you go for it first.
I've got to read through it. Right.
Start at the top and work your way down.
Oh. So FIFE's forum question.
Lady.
Danny, who provided FIFE's forum question today?
Me.
You provided it.
That's why I decided the average.
What can I say? I wondered why nothing had come, but I thought you'd gone back to the database of questions we've got. But anyway.
Oh, the question at the top is wrong because as usual, when you cut and paste, Skype decides to put quote marks in there. Yes, there are no quote marks when you read that question out.
Okay, it told me which one it was anyway. Anyway, cheers, Danny. Okay. So we asked you, listeners, are you happy with where the club is now under Emery and why? Because we're about a third of the way through the season now?
Yeah, almost exactly.
Yeah.
And so we got from Alonso Spencer, I'm happy with Emery because he preaches togetherness, something we at the club haven't had in ages. We've also got from Marble Halls TV, another happy customer here. We've made the requisite changes at executive level and in the coach. We have a head coach who at least can respond tactically in games. And we have world-class footballing execs in Sanyehi and scouts in Miss and Slap, so long as they're from around the Dortmund area.
Gundogan, any day now.
Julian Weigl coming soon.
Piszczek, we need a right back.
Schmelzer. What's Wiedenfeller doing these days? We're getting another
goalkeeper.
Yeah. He was worse than Almunia, wasn't he?
He's about 75 now, isn't he, bless him?
God.
Let's get Paul Lambert back. He's
exactly.
That's why I support Dortmund, because of him in the Champions League final.
In that delightful neon kit. Anyway, sorry.
Well, as we've gone off topic we'll go to someone like Schwinn. He's used to going off topic as well. He's beyond chuffed. We all understand it's a process and we have bumps, but we are winning while learning, and that's more than we could have asked for, in his opinion. Someone from Noir Confidential is very happy with where the club is under Emery, simply because there are clear signs of progress. Structures being put into place and the team is showing some character. That's all I wanted from his first season in charge, and we've managed to achieve it after a couple of weeks.
Could I just stand up and applaud that answer? Thank you, Noir. Yeah. Brilliant.
Was
Noir's very good. Every tweet he sends is always good.
We've got one from Herbinio as well. I'm feeling positive and admiring what Emery is bringing. People must be patient and realise there is no quick fix to some of our deep-rooted problems. He needs to be given 2 transfer windows till we can judge.
Another round of applause for that one. Cheers, Pete.
Another excellent one. I mean, this is all very positive. This isn't.
It's not good, is it?
This doesn't sound like you put this in Twitter. You put this in Twitter, right, Danny?
Yeah, I do.
And you only end up with positive answers. Anyway,
I think all the tappy has gone to their head.
Jonas 82. Yes, I was expecting worse. Oh, cheers, Jonas. There's some negativity for us. Although it was undeniable, there's still a hell of a lot of work to do. One from Richard as well. Yes, as we are slowly making progress. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's very correct. And if we end up with an hero who I think will be Welsh and called Jason Davis, he will burn it down within a day.
Fiddling away, the dirty bastard.
JJ Gunner. Yes, I think there has been a big overreaction after a couple of below par performances, but people need to chill out and remember this is a rebuilding process. There will be bumps along the way and it will not be done overnight. As
Round of
another
applause.
Now, Danny, we have the final one here, and I believe you know how to say Daniel's surname properly.
Maj.
There we go. Thank you.
I'm
So from
getting
Daniel
that.
Maj, I'm happy with how it's gone so far. Perhaps not the latest results, but I feel we would choose some poor results. Unai has had a lot of work to do. Same goes for the players. Pleased with the signings. Future looks bright.
Oh, there you
So
go.
now I'll pass it over to you guys and ask Danny. You're always full of positivity as well. How do you feel this has gone?
Well, we lost our first 2 games against possibly 2 of the best teams in the league, and every other game we're undefeated. And what else do you want? If we'd have been doing this time next season, we'd be going, we're on track. It's a 2 or 3 year project. We're doing this after 17 bloody games, people. And I think everyone there, and I haven't picked and chosen those ones. They are as they came in. And we've had a few others since then, but we didn't want to have fill the show full of positivity because we don't need that being Arsenal fans. I'm delighted. I've got no problem with it at all. Like we were saying in the show, a few things need tweaking. Players are settling in. And we've done all of that without our proper left back. Just think the passing ability and the goals from Monreal, that would have made the difference in so many games. And we've had so many players. Like we have 2 squads. We have the Premier League squad, we have the Europa League squad, and I suppose we've got the League Cup squad. Those squads are bleeding into each other because of injuries and players been missing. And you haven't had all these players going, right, you're only going to play in this competition. I mean, look at Iwobi. He's played in the Premier League against Liverpool. He played in the Europa League against Lisbon, and now he's played in the Premier League against Wolves as well. That normally, in an ideal circumstances, that wouldn't be happening, would it? You'd have almost a clear definition between first team and reserve, with a smallish squad, with players out, quite a lot of players out injured, and everything's new. I've got nothing to complain about. Love it.
Well, there we go.
Chris, they're expecting a monologue for you, Chris, not an agree.
No, I do. I mean, it's nice watching us again. The players seem happy, which I know is a little bit of a what's the word, anomaly, because they should be happy. They're playing the best sport in the world, but it's good to see. And at this stage, I think we're ahead of schedule. I'm fully sort of braced for the fact we are going to have a few bumps along the road. I'd love to see us dump that lot from Middlesex out of the League Cup. I've had some fun interactions with them over the weekend. But yeah, I mean, it would just be. I think if we come out of this season with any sort of silverware or 4th place, because I say because that would be good enough, or 3rd, I think we could all sit back and say, that's pretty decent. And there will be a bit more of a rebuild next summer, probably in terms of ins and outs. Obviously we know Aaron's going to go, and a few others I think will probably follow him. So yeah, I can't complain. And I think overall we've got to be thankful that we've managed things the right way, and that the change was done for the right reasons at the right time. And we've got, as I tweeted recently, actually, I think it's still my pinned tweet. The thing I really like about Unai Emery is it feels like a good fit. He looks like a manager who's genuinely enjoying.
Vampire.
He does, but he also looks like he's a manager who's genuinely enjoying his work, and he's at a club that appreciates him, and he's got support from that club, and the supporters seem to like him, and it's a good setup. He doesn't seem to me like a manager just putting it on. He looks like a manager who's really happy and enjoying what he's doing for his job. So what more can you ask?
We have to give a shout out to Ivan Gazidez and the rest of the team for
God, of course. I mean,
putting him in as well.
Legend. I know you're fishing there, but
that stuff he does with Casido, where they take it in turns, that just shows how not big-headed he is, how it isn't all about him. Steve Bold was made to sit on the bench and write lines if he ever did anything other than putting the cones out. But he's not really doing much more than that now, though, is he?
But seeing us defend from set pieces still is obviously a problem.
I'm really gutted I didn't make this point before he signed, because I could have got lots of fan mail if I had have done. But Caicedo was the X factor. He was so so highly thought of at PSG. It's unreal. Like all the players there. I think Angel Di Maria was one of the biggest ones who said he absolutely transformed the way he thought about his game. He's a really, really important part of this whole setup, and he's very much the yin to Emery's yang. So yeah, he's
But
very.
Just think how unbearable you would have been if you'd have got Guendouzi and that right.
Oh, I mean that would have been If we'd got Yassin Adli, I would never have shut up, honestly. But yeah, he's a really. It's really good to see the organisation and things, and I know we're not harping back all the time, but that's something Arsenal didn't do. Simple as that. I think he'd admit that even now. It's good that we've got a coach and we've got these people who are being given the license to coach. I honestly don't know what poor old Stevie Bold does now.
I think he's there for a bit of continuity, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, I think so, because I really can't see what else he does. But if he's happy, and he's still a foot in the not the past. That sounds wrong, but
we don't see him. What's going on in training now? So maybe he has a more active part in training.
Yeah, and
we are seeing a little bit more now, aren't we?
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, and they might well be, as you say, they might go for candlelit dinners together. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it's
all out for a curry with Ray Parlour.
Yeah, that would also be cool. Can you imagine? I listened back to his autobiography on the plane when I went on holiday recently again. For the
Who's Ray's?
Yeah,
I've got it on Audible as well.
It's so good, isn't it? It gets better.
I've not heard it yet.
Have you not? Oh, it's really good. Really good.
It's next
Josh,
level, Danny.
Before I move on to questions, do you want to answer how you feel about the club at the moment? I'd say I'll do the questions because most of them are for Kris, and you did the Fifes forum. So there's no point Kris asking himself questions.
I feel like I need to have an air of negativity around it because everybody's just so happy at the moment.
It's not good, is it? Not used to it.
I mean, did you listen to the radio show?
Hold up, yeah. I'm not having all this fucking happiness.
Tappy, you fuckers.
Load of fucking bollocks. 42 fucking grand a week he's on. A load of shit.
Shut up, John, you bitch. I'll slap you, boy.
Love him.
Oh, God, he knows where we all live.
What a man.
I know. I'm expecting him to send me some straws at some point.
Straws?
Yeah.
To clutch at.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. No, I am pleasantly. Yeah, I'll go pleasantly surprised with
I can say aroused.
How well we're doing. Yeah, pleasantly aroused.
That's not tonight.
That's where my final straw clutching is going.
Clutching your very own little straw.
Yeah. Hardly onto it for dear life. I'm pleasantly surprised. I think there was a bit of I wasn't really sure where we get from Emery. I think the fact that the three teams that are unbeaten are having such a strong run that perhaps it puts a little, not dampener on it, but we are performing by far and away ahead of where I expected us to be. But with the performances we've put in and not so the performance, but the results we've got, I think under any other season would see us at least second in this league. And the fact that
of a good team that if you play badly and draw, that's what good teams do.
Yeah, definitely. Look at what we did with the Liverpool game. I don't think we played particularly well in that game. Certainly not to our full potential. And I think Liverpool were similar. I don't think that midfield's getting much improvement in it, and we dominated that from them. So I think we can go toe to toe with these big sides. And if I think, as we said, second half of the season is where we'll truly see what Emery's learnt from the first half.
Very true. Right, shall I do questions? All for Kris. You can go now, Josh, if you want.
That's all right. If I could just every so often come up with a Frenchman from an obscure league that Kris has never heard of.
Just shout out Mikel Silvestri every other minute, and then
we talking about United rejects again that we've ended up with.
Right, first question is from Schwinn, and he says, "This is for Kris. Kris, we be looking. Oh, I think I've cut and pasted this badly. We be looking at a left back and wingers. Who would you recommend?"
Okay. Well, wingers are actually, no, we'll start at left back. There's a lad who's just been called into the French national team, actually, called Mendy, ironically. No, not that one.
Should we be looking at a left back fan?
Oh, should we be?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, we should absolutely be looking at left backs.
Sorry, Trin.
Because Monreal is obviously getting up there in years, and I'd love to be in a position where we've got Lichtsteiner and Monreal as backups, and then we've got the first choice essentially is Bellerin and another. Ferland Mendy at Lyon is one I'd have a little look at. He's very, very talented, early 20s. He's just been called up to the French national team for the first time. Wouldn't be that expensive and would fit the style because he's very similar to Hector in how he plays. So yeah, he'd be one I'd have a look at. I'd also have a little fish around Rafael Guerrero at Dortmund again, if we could see as Maitland-Niles could have a look at his.
No
his
problem. Consider it done.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
Because we missed a trick when we had the opportunity to sign him when he was at Lorient at the time, and Dortmund got in ahead of us. So I'd like to see us revisit that one. If not,
plus we've got a loyalty card with Dortmund. They owe us about 2 million in loyalty points.
Buy one, get a tin of beans free.
Yeah.
But yeah, and as far as wingers, if we were to go in for I don't think we are going to go for a winger, but a wide forward. Once again, Miguel Almiron was outstanding for Atlanta United in America the other night. Yes, I know it's America, blah blah blah. This kid is a huge talent. He's winning games on his own over there. I say on his own, along with his partner in Martinez up front. But he's a player
Martinez just broke the record for the most number of goals in an MLS season. He's not doing that on his own, is he?
No, exactly. And Almiron is just one of those players that he's got such quick feet. He's so tricky. He's got a turn of pace. He would fit us to a T. I actually thought we missed a trick in not going after Bernard, what Everton obviously got from Shakhtar. I thought he would have been a good fit for us. But Almiron is the sort of player that under Emery I think would flourish. So I personally would love to see us go after him. But in terms of which is the more pressing issue, probably left back at this stage.
So Almiron, he's a similar to, I'd say, a Draxler if people haven't seen it. Would you agree, Kris?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would say that. Probably not as experienced at the top level, not. But in terms of price and valuation moving forwards, I mean, I think we had a look at him when he was in Argentina. I think people. There is
a rumor. It certainly came out a month or so ago that apparently he was rumored to be coming in January. To these shores, maybe to our part of North London, but we'll see how much of a rumour that was, or if it was contract talks. But he's getting to that point now at what, 24, 25?
I think he's 20. I think it's 24, is it? Or
22. Yeah, he's reaching that kind of bar where it's his time to stick or twist, and he can continue being that big fish.
And they've already signed his replacement, so they know he's going. So it's not like we'd have to push hard to get him. I mean, obviously, if Draxler was available, I think, you go in at that sort of level player, of course. But all I would say is for people that say, oh, he's playing in America, he must be shit. Well, yeah, Zlatan Ibrahimovic is doing all right over there. He's still cutting a rug. But no, on a grander scheme, don't judge the league they're playing in, because the same people that say that are the same people that would slag off
Pavon. They wanted Pavon.
Absolutely, yeah. Or players, I'm trying to think, who is the player that didn't Man City get one from obscure places who's now become, who am I trying to think of?
Was it Moy who was playing in Australia?
Aaron Moy, no.
They've got Daniel Azani, who's now at Celtic.
Yeah.
And they've got, who's the other one? Patrick Roberts.
Maybe it's not Man City I'm thinking of, but I guess what I'm saying is don't sort of say just because a player's playing in an inferior league they won't be very good. That there's plenty of. Bernardo Silva was at Monaco in the apparent Farmers League. Well, he's done all right, hasn't he, at Man City? So do you know what I mean? Don't always judge the league that a player is playing in. If they come in and they settle, that they can be world class as well. So.
Talking of MLS, congratulations to the Portland Timbers. They beat the Fishwives. They're through to the semi-final of the League Stroke Cup, because they do it in a weird way. What a magnificent game that was.
Which semi-final? Is it the semi-final or the actual semi-final?
They're now in the semi-final of the playoffs. Yeah. They've got Sporting...
Kansas.
Kansas.
Yeah,
is
Sporting
it Kansas?
Kansas, I think.
Or is it Real Salt Lake?
They smashed Real Salt Lake
KC.
4-1, 3-1, something like that. Yeah, but in the other half, you've got New York Red Bulls who are running away with it, and Atlanta. So the Timbers are fucked. But at least they got to the semis again. Josh, last season, if I'd have asked you that question about is there any left backs, left wingers in the Championship, there's only one name that would have sprung to mind, isn't there? He's having a terrible time with Fulham at the moment, doing nothing in the Premier League. Is there anybody
I'd still look at Sessegnon as an option. I think I said before, if we're going to look at someone who's basically the left-footed version of Bellerin, I'd go for Sessegnon.
Playing in a team.
But is there anybody in the Championship
bear in mind
now?
he's like 17.
I can't think of anybody. It's definitely no one at Norwich because they're letting in as many goals as they're scoring. But fucking hell, Daniel Farker is top of the league. There's a young man playing at West Brom who plays at left back. Ex-England international. Can't remember his name.
Yeah, he'll be all right.
Caitlin Gribbs, is it something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah. You have got
no one.
James Bree is right back.
He's a bit cheesy though, isn't he, to be fair?
Yeah.
Bree.
He's quite a good option. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that
There's
I'd
no
be
mega money
rushing out
dominating
of.
team, is there?
The best left back in the Championship last year was then promptly sold back to the Championship when he went up, which was Douglas at.
That's true.
Went to Leeds, didn't he?
Yes.
Luke Ayling's still getting a game for Leeds as well. Bless him. Went to school with him.
Who is?
Luke Ayling.
Oh yes, centre back, isn't he?
Injured at the moment. Yeah,
Wasn't he at Arsenal as well?
He was, yeah.
And Yeovil?
And Yeovil, yep.
Oh, good God. How did I know all that lot?
Lovely
is there an answer, Josh?
No, I can't think of anyone in the Championship that's really throwing out to me at the moment. No.
Okay, right. A question for you from Piker. Why haven't we given Lacazette a run out on the right? He's got all the attributes to play there. I mean, look at the way that is in the chat box. Look, it's added a full stop after the all. It's just, and then it's added A to the end of Lacazette to make Lacazette. So, so it's not my fault. It's not my bad cutting and pasting. It's just Skype is shit. So, what's your answer to that, Josh? Is there any reason why? Apart from the fact he's not a right winger.
I mean, one, we don't play with wingers. Two, he could play behind a striker, and that's about it. But then you're still shoehorning players into positions. We've got plenty of players that specialise in positions. We should play them where they're best at, and I don't care who we're dropping to do that, basically.
Completely agree. And God bless the listener, and not be for me to say he's wrong, but he's wrong. He hasn't got all the attributes to play as a wide player at all. He is a goal scorer. As Josh said, he can play the 10. And interestingly, if we didn't have I wonder how Laka would play in behind Aubameyang. That might actually work quite nicely. But no, he's a goal scorer. He's a finisher. That's what he's good at. Leave him doing what he's good at.
I don't think his incisive passing is good enough.
He's more of a 1-2 guy. Yeah, he's a guy who'll fizz it into somebody else, take the return, go and score, or he'll lay it on for someone else.
Spin and stick it in the top corner.
Yeah, but he's not going to be threading the eye of a needle. That is what I think we need out on the wing at the moment. We're not really playing with players that cross. Bellerin, as you say, has got 4 assists in the league this season. In all competitions, just as a comparison, Andy Robertson at Liverpool has got 5.
There's a good example of a player that you shouldn't judge about the club he came from, by the way. Great example.
Hearts, wasn't he?
Hull.
He was at Hull and he was barely, he
was a Scottish bloke they've got.
Yeah, that's it.
He came from Hull.
Did he? I thought he played in Scotland.
Who got relegated?
He did at some point. But I would have a look at him, and Trent Alexander-Arnold has got 2. And they're apparently the best fullbacks in the league at the moment.
That's because they play for Liverpool.
I mean, you've got Marcus Alonso, who I believe is topping that.
Who, let's be honest, isn't
with
a fullback.
7. Yeah, with 7.
Yeah, he's playing more defensive this season, though, isn't he, compared to previous seasons?
He's being asked to, but it's not what he's good at.
No.
He's a left midfielder who can tackle. That's what he is. Occasionally.
Okay. Next question. There's no part 2 extras. Part 2 this podcast because the ladies, the under 21s, the under 18s, and the under 23s, none of them have played since the last show. Yeah. So it's all been knocked on the head. So we'll just come on with a few more questions. Herbinio, Pete asks for Kris. He says reports are emerging about a possible swap deal for Rambo for Patrick Schlick of Napoli in January. Absolute hogwash of what an see, this is just terrible with a cut and paste.
Is he basically saying, is it a load
Hold on,
of
maybe I should go to my own thing here.
Just for listeners, whilst you
hogwash.
Phil,
Go on.
I was going to say, just you try and find the correct thing and Phil, for the listeners, Danny has actually just copied and pasted this straight in, but as the computer is owned by Danny, it has scrambled it just like his own brain.
No, I've cut it from Twitter into WordPad, and then from WordPad into Skype, and then that's when it's fucked it up. So I'm going to read all the questions from my WordPad. Reports are emerging about a possible swap deal. Rambo for Patrick Schlick of Napoli in Jan. ... Absolute hogwash, or what an would be. I think you're pissed, Herb. You've been on the Herb again. Would it be a good deal for us? Hogwash, or what an would it be a good deal for us?
So in short, would it be a good idea or not?
Yeah. Yes or no?
Yeah. It'd be brilliant. It'd be a brilliant deal, but there's no chance that's going to happen at all. No fucking chance whatsoever. Roma are not going to part with one of their best up-and-coming talents for a player who they don't need. So no, that's not going to happen. But yeah, it would be a magnificent deal if it was on the table. To be honest, at this stage, I'd probably accept a bag of minstrels for Ramsey because we're not going to get anything more. But I would still be trying to get rid in January myself.
There has been teams that have wanted a player before when he's got 6 months left on his contract and played money. Not a lot, as Paul Daniels once said. I just checked on Twitter, and Herb, you fucked it up on Twitter as well. You've made us look like a tit. Right, next.
He also put that Patrick Schick plays for Napoli as well. Yeah. He doesn't play for Roma.
Plays for Roma, yeah.
Herb, 1 week ban. No more. Next week, you're banned from sending questions.
I would say 2 week ban for not naming a player that plays in Dortmund.
if Sven hears you've done that, you'll be kicked out.
He doesn't even know where Italy is.
Oh, jeez.
If you had the opportunity to get rid, sounds awful, but if you had the opportunity to let Ramsey go in January for, let's just say, for argument's sake, 10 million, you'd do it, wouldn't you?
Of course you would.
Would you do it? I would
Definitely.
do it. He's not really
only if I can get Pogba in as a replacement.
Yeah.
Where would you play Pogba? Left back?
No. Pogba can just do what the fuck he wants. I'm going to bring him out.
Like his Juve days.
Yes.
Actually, can we just swap Pogba for Ozil? Would that work?
No.
Oh, imagine.
Different type of player.
No thanks.
Doesn't matter. Just anyway.
No, because you know what happened.
Oh.
United will get rid of Jose, and then they'll end up with an amazing manager, and Ozil will be a top assist maker, top goal scorer.
And Sanchez top scorer.
Yeah, exactly.
And Ford Kaku wouldn't score against bottom of the league teams only, would he?
Should we just get Sanchez back for a laugh?
God, he doesn't look happy, does he?
He's linked to PSG, isn't he?
Isn't everyone?
Yeah.
This week.
PSG can't sign anybody at the moment, so I wouldn't worry about that for the time being.
They can't afford to pay him, even with their certain abilities of a calculator, to pay him, cover his 350 grand a week basic.
No, that's fine. He'll just be an ambassador for the Qatari World Cup. Allegedly.
You never know, he might even play for Qatar.
And all their fine treatment of people.
Lovely. And stealing their passports. Right, question for you, Josh, from JJ Gunner. Thought I'd use this opportunity to ask about the internationals. Why is it that members of the pod seem to dislike the breaks? I'm a huge international fan, which means he's quite a young person, and go to every England game, home and away, definitely a young person. I've never understood the hate internationals get. Seems unpatriotic. Josh.
Should we put this to the resident Frenchman first? Because I love the international break.
Or the resident Swede.
Or the resident Swede.
Or whatever I fancy other than England on the day. I just said it because you're all thinking it.
Go on, Kris, speak for both of us, because you'll all answer this the same way I will.
And then I'll come in and I'll balance this back out.
Well, first of all, Kris, did you ever follow the England team? Because I know I did.
Well, actually, no, that is
about
a lie.
1990.
Euro 96 was the last time I had any interest, and then for me the game died. Just because I lost.
Was that when Gaza died and you?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, to be fair, I was never passionate about England. I followed them because at that age I was like a sheep, basically, and I thought because I did think, oh well, because I was born in England, I have to support England. And then I found the French national team when I went. I went on a French study visit with school in 1998 when the World Cup was on, and I just got so caught. No, it's before they'd won it. Obviously, I was supporting them all the way through. But we were in a little village, and we went before the World Cup started in that summer, and we were in a little village called Brignogon, thank you. Which is just a beautiful sort of idyllic French town, and we were there with school, and the whole country came together as one. I mean, okay, yes, I know. Did
you say 1998? You were 30 in 1998. What were you doing with a load of school kids in a French village?
Because I was the what do you call it? The monitor, the
teacher.
You know, like when kids go when you're an ex-pupil and you come back and you help out on. Did you never do that, Josh? Help me out here. Did they do that at your school, Josh? Adult. Yes, that's the one. Yeah, you're essentially like you go and you help out the
kids per adult.
Yeah, you go and help out with you. It's essentially like an exchange visit, but you're the adult looking after the party of kids.
I thought you were trying to claim that you were still at secondary school in 1998.
No,
it's not that sick.
I went as an ex-pupil looking after or helping the teachers with the kids.
Good.
You three are not coming for me.
Carry on.
But so anyway, so I went out to help out, and it was I just got caught up in the sort of enjoyment of how the French public took their national side to their hearts, and I never really felt that with England. And the biggest issue, and I know this is quite funny with Spurs having a goalkeeper who's French, but I just cannot support a team that has the likes of John Terry, Frank Lampard, any Spurs player ever. I just can't get my head around how people can hate Harry Kane all year and then all of a sudden he wears an England shirt. Oh, I love Harry Kane. He's No, it's bullshit. No. So that's why I don't support England. And yes, obviously I have followed the French leagues for a number of years. So obviously I'm a bit biased towards the French national team now. And in terms of the international breaks, unless it's a World Cup or European Championships, no, I don't want to know. I just find it painful, to be honest, painful to watch. And I like club football too much. I enjoy leagues all around the world each week. So that's me. But Josh can put the other side of the argument.
So my affinity for England came in the same real summer as Kris's did. However, I was that sheep, as Kris has delightfully put it. For World Cup 98. I was 7 at the time. I absolutely love the England national side. It's where I watch majority of my football. Club football wasn't a big thing in my house. I have very split allegiances in my house. My mum is a Spurs fan. From granddad's side. Yep. My granddad was always on the fence for which side he supported from back in like the 20s, because there wasn't really that huge rivalry at that point. It was a case of at the weekend, which team could he get in when he was living in North London? Which team would let him in at that point? And he ended up at the majority of Spurs games rather than Arsenal games. But he didn't really care about which team he saw. He just wanted to see football. In terms of international, I think I grew up with seeing that kind of, and Kris will hate this because I'm going to say golden generation. He'll be like, they didn't get anything.
No, I don't mind. You can call it what you like.
But they are the golden generation of
what year is that?
98. So that's Michael Owen,
that Dutch
David Beckham, that kind of group. I remember that one of my first football memories is of that kind of World Cup. That Tunisia game, and I've always followed England from that point of view.
So when Arsenal play Man United, and they robbed us. Rooney, Ferdinand, Scholes, all those cunts. Yeah. So when they robbed Arsenal with a 50th game by cheating, fouling, dirty bastards.
Oh no, I hated them.
And regularly, but then how can you turn it on to liking them when they put on an
England
shirt?
I've never liked Wayne Rooney, even when Wayne Rooney was in an England shirt.
Right, so me and Kris is the same as that, but we've just expanded it a bit to everybody other than Arsenal. But back in my day, you had playing for England, Seaman, Merson, Dixon, Keown, Bold, Adams, Winterburn, even Sol Campbell, the traitor, and all those, Brian Marwood, all those players. You would never get an England game without a handful of Arsenal players in it.
Yeah,
that helped you go through. But when we go through a barren spell of no Arsenal players in the England squad, apart from Danny Welbeck, you think, well, I'm not going to cheer on Harry Kane. I'm not going to go full fucking Ellis Mel and go and have Harry Kane in my dream team and go fucking full shitbag, which is the next logical level. Then it'd be, I quite like the Spurs away kit. I might buy one.
So I'm growing up in the period where Seaman is still the first choice goalkeeper. Ashley Cole is coming through at left back. Sol Campbell is in the middle of that defence. There's still a heavy Arsenal presence in that team.
Yeah, I feel
it's just, you could blame Arsene Wenger for un-Englanding the Arsenal team. There we go.
I would have to say as well, and at the risk of Steve getting his soapbox out, and I mean that in the most positive way because I can hear him doing it from here. My issue with the England national team is probably, dare I say it, and I may be wrong.
So if
fans. A little bit. I think Steve and I share very similar views when it comes to the great British public, or English in particular. I'm not a particular fan of certain England fans, nor am I a particular fan of certain English people and the way that we have this arrogance, particularly when we go abroad, that we invented the game and we're better because we're English and all of that crap. Doesn't sit comfortably with me at all. So, and that's, to be honest, that's more politics. So I don't want to go too deep into that.
And I'd say the argument for that is they sit in the Arsenal crowd as well.
Absolutely,
every other week. During the week, they're an Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
And then they'll get up and they'll do exactly what we're talking about in terms of England fans. And they're the ones that give Arsenal fans a bad name. And then during the international break, they're giving England fans a bad name.
And it would also be fair to say that, French have those supporters as well. Of course, there are a lot of what I would call smaller, dare I go again here, but smaller northern areas tend to be more England biased than some of the bigger clubs, shall we say. But as I say, that's probably for another podcast and another day. But
probably because all the league teams are shit up here, and the England thing is the only decent team to get to watch.
And of course, Spurs play at Wembley now, so if that isn't a reason to hate England, I don't know what is. But it's just I think the biggest issue I have with people who get on my back about supporting France is this idea that because I'm English, I should support England. What a load of bollocks! Honestly, that argument is so crap. Because by that logic, I should be supporting Plymouth Argyle. And should only eat food from Plymouth. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But also, me and Kris don't follow any other sport. So it's not like we're England cricket fans or England rugby fans or any of the other sports. I don't watch any of that. I don't give a fuck. So I don't support England when they play cricket either. I don't watch any cricket.
What about the Olympics?
I watch the Olympics. I don't care who wins.
Supporting Mo Farah, or are you supporting the French marathon?
Although I do describe myself as English, not British, even though my lot are all potato munchers. So
I'm the same. I always put on the form on forms. I always put English, but
and I insist on it.
I mean, to be fair, we live in a very multicultural land now, and to be born
down
in England
there, they don't. Not where Kris lives, not round here.
That's true.
I'm seen as a dirty foreigner because my mum's Irish.
Look at the number of players now. Well, I suppose back in the day as well, you had all of the, Tony Cascarino with his adopted mum's grandmother being Irish.
Yeah.
And it turns out
qualified for them. But there's always players that are going to, look at the shit Wilfried Zaha gets.
Yeah, but he deserves it because he's a massive cheating twat, let's be honest. But, sorry, I cannot fucking stand that bloke. Honestly, if there's one, he is fast becoming my Eric Lamela. Honestly, I fucking hate that bloke. But nobody will get to that level, I should stress. But no, Zaha for me is just when I heard him come out and he started bitching about the treatment he's getting, honestly, I could have thrown a violin at him, let alone play one for him. What a twat.
Here's a quick question for you. Your 3 most hated footballers in your life. My 3: Wayne Rooney,
Roy Keane,
Harry Kane, and
Teddy Sheringham's one of mine.
I never really saw him much of a threat. Beckham, but I like Beckham when he was in MLS. I like to see Rooney do well for DC United.
Yeah.
I also hated Ferdinand, and Paul Scholes I had a grudging admiration for because he was so bloody good. Hated Ryan Giggs.
I hated Gary Neville like he was a pundit.
It's odd, isn't it?
I hated Sheringham because he was ex-Spurs, and then do you remember that game at Highbury? We won 3-2. David Platt's header.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? And he scored the 2 goals for United, and he wheeled away kissing his United badge, and it was almost like taking a bird home and her going, do you know what I'm really into? I'm going to piss on you. Oh, while you're cleaning that up, I'm going to shit on your face. That's what it felt like. Honestly, seeing that little mug run away, patting the United badge as an ex-Spurs player. Oh, God, that was...
Jesus just rubbed his hands together and sounds like a good night in.
Yeah, true. But
I don't know if I can do my most hated players because I have this level of if I hate someone so much, I just forget that they exist.
Kane is definitely up there. I'm with Daniel.
Kane and Rooney.
Rooney is up there for sure because I've never understood. It's annoyed me how
England's greatest goal scorer because he keeps playing against San Marino and Azerbaijan.
It's not that that's the problem. There's just so many
Lamella's
other issues
baggage
that cause that. Dele Alli.
Oh yes,
he's working his way there, but it's good to see that he's a one-season wonder.
So you know how I said that? You know how you said that during the summer that certain people will, let's say as an Arsenal fan, will turn around and start supporting Harry Kane. Dele Alli was always a player I hated during the summer. I can add that.
Ellis has probably got him as captain in his dream team.
He's triple captain every week for him.
Oh,
I absolutely hated him because he was offering nothing to that England team.
Oh.
And
then you could have had someone in there like the baldy bloke at Newcastle. Imagine if he'd gone
fuck off having John Joe Shelby.
Oh, he's
useless. You'd love him.
I think you have to caveat this question by saying players that you hate because Spurs players basically are a given, aren't they?
Oh yeah, straight in there.
They're a given until they join Arsenal.
Yeah, that one, maybe 2 exceptions. But yeah, I think you've got to caveat that. I mean, there's always those players that you just hate, full stop, isn't there? Like, no matter what club they play for. You have to sort of caveat it.
There's one I kind of forgot about. I did used to like him, and now I hate him. Zlatan.
Oh, I've always liked him.
He's a prick now.
Legend.
Get over yourself. You're 37 and you're calling yourself a lion, you fucking prick.
I've just bought his book today, actually. It's very good.
His knees held together with meatballs and gaffer tape, and he's still going that he's a physical specimen. Mate, you came back from an injury early, and that's why you collapsed and had to run away to the MLS. Jog on.
He's doing wonders in MLS. Don't you be mean about MLS.
Said he took over the Premier League and dominated. You finished 6th, you cunt.
Oh, just to use the C word. I think he's been provoked.
He's gone full Davis.
No.
God.
Right, we've been doing
Don't
this
let Lana listen to this.
1 hour and 10, 1 hour 50. So a few more questions and then we'll wrap it up. For you, Kris, from Noir Confidential, as usual, we said some decent questions. If you could prevent any former, this is both of you, if you could prevent any former player getting injured while he was playing for Arsenal, who would you have picked and why? I think that's more along the lines of they'd have had a magnificent career if they never would have been injured. I know both of you are thinking Santi, the obvious one, but then you're thinking, go on then.
Eduardo da Silva.
Ooh, he was at the Emirates this week, wasn't he?
That he was in a lovely cardigan. That guy would have got 30 goals every season he played for us if he'd have stayed fit, and he would have won us the title that year as well. Absolute gem of a footballer.
The season before he was at, I think it's Croatia or Russia. He was at one of the Ukraine.
Dynamo Zagreb, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think he scored 34 goals in 31 games.
He's such
Eduardo was one I forgot.
Such a natural finisher. I mean, Diaby is the other obvious one because he would have bossed midfields for 10 years.
Just go to the YouTube and put Diaby v Liverpool, and then you look at some of the magic he did.
What's
yours, Josh?
Aboué.
Aboué naturally. Yeah.
Imagine having Aboué available through the whole of the banter period 100% of the time.
I mean, Arshavin, if you took the
I mean,
pies
that's
away.
Ellis's
I mean,
answer
that's
to
why.
everything, Aboué.
That's why I want us to sign Eric Bailly. If Jose ever plays Eric Bailly again, please watch him because he's the second coming of Aboué. He's just wonderful as a player. He always has a laugh. But yeah, injured players.
My one would be, I've got two. One, Jack Wilshere, just to fuck Jace off. But then the other one has to be Santi.
I mean, Santi, yeah, is another.
His life and his career was ruined.
Carl Jenkinson, without that injury, could have been the best right back. No.
Don't you say anything about him.
But yeah, I mean, they're the obvious ones, I guess. But yeah, I mean, Eduardo would just...
Slightly off topic. Serge Aurier at Spurs, how has that gone as bad as it has where he's not even getting a game when he was so good in France?
Because he's dog shit.
Is he? Just quick?
He's the Adama Traore of right backs.
And he's an arsehole.
He's a bit of a... Yeah, I mean, he's a very, very good attacking fullback, but he can't defend for toffee. He's a walking yellow card. He's a liability. And he plays for them. So, yeah, he's scum.
Where were you up to, Josh, before you dropped?
Where was I up to?
Yes.
His nuts and guts.
Were you talking when you dropped out?
No.
Okay,
I think I was mentioning Aboué and Eric Bailly.
Yeah, you did. No, okay. So you dropped out and come back and haven't missed anything.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Marble Hawks TV, this is one for you, Josh, says, should we sell Mkhitaryan? He's strong technically, but bar the goal on Sunday, he doesn't have much end product lately. Just looking at his stats this season, he has played 14 games, 2 goals, 3 assists.
I mean, that's a better return than Mesut Ozil than Aaron Ramsey.
Oh,
that's not actually. It's not.
No.
But I think Ramsey's got 4 assists and 3 goals. But yeah,
4 assists and 1 goal.
Is it?
Ozil's got 4.
So I would hold on to Mkhitaryan at the moment, to be honest. Depends of who we're going to go after, because I don't think we've got a player naturally suited to the right side of that midfield 3 that we're playing than him. I don't think there's anyone else we can play there. We've already said that Iwobi is more of an inverted wide player there. Maybe it's Mesut Ozil out on that wing, but we need a little bit of cover, and there's no one else that could play there. So unless we find a suitable replacement, I wouldn't be looking to move him on.
We've got a little bit of live interaction here with our wonderful listeners. Herb Gooner, I said to him, did you type that drunk? We've wasted 5 minutes on this. He went, yeah, I leave suds on plates too, because I had a moan last night about people who do the washing up and don't rinse the suds off under the tap. Oh, he's got me good there. What a shitbag. Next question for you, Kris, from Richard, who was on the show last week. Are you worried that we still haven't nailed down a settled first 11 and formation yet?
No, I'm not worried. Not much worries me, to be honest. So that's a lie. No, I'm not that worried. I think I quite like the fact that we can be flexible, to be honest. So no, I can see what he's saying. I can see his point, but no, I think let me put it to you this way. This is the 4th month of Unai Emery in charge. 4th month. You know, is this going to take a lot longer than that to? Yeah. No, I'm not worried. I won't go on forever, but okay. Not worried at all.
Got an answer here that I'd put in the wrong category for the Fifes Forum from Steve-O. Yeah, I'm happy thus far, mainly because Unai is not a corpse in the technical area. And I have no idea when he'll make a substitution, both of which are great. Also, he isn't here to defend himself, and in solidarity with Kris, #fuck Ellis. Question for you, Josh, from Jonas. He says, are we seeing the results of the limits of Arsenal's ambitions? Is our squad so thin that Emery can't pull Xhaka, Mustafi, etc. for their lapses because he doesn't seem to have the real viable long-term replacement options for them. In other words, doesn't want to fuck them off because he's got no one else to play, I suppose.
Sorry, I'm just reading that one back as well. You did say it very eloquently, Danny, but I just want to double check what was actually written.
Never know with me.
I don't think our squad is thin, to be honest.
Neither do I.
We had a few injuries in key locations. It is.
Now we're down
isn't
to that the same for everybody? We can't have a squad of 70 million.
You abide by FFP, I suppose.
Well, even then, you've still got the Premier League squad sizes, which we do abide by, and every team abides by. But I mean, if Emery wanted to pull Xhaka, he could. He could play Guendouzi. He could play Ramsey there. He could play El Neni there. We've got options. If it's getting really bad, we do have players that can, even from the youth ranks. If it was awful, then we've got Joe Willock that can play in the central midfield. Mesut Ozil can do a job there. Mkhitaryan again. Mustafi, perhaps we are a little short at centre-back at the moment, but that's due to injury. We've still got three fit centre-backs. We've got Monreal coming back, who can play as centre-back, and we've got Mavropanos is back in training and should be available after the international break. So I don't think it's
like a new signing.
Exactly. I don't think we're short anywhere. I think that's probably actually one of the problems, that we don't have a place where we can easily slide in a new signing. We've got to get rid before we can before we can bring in anybody. So if we did want to bring in a new centre back, someone's got to go out first. We can't just immediately bring in somebody and push them over the head of another one, because we'll end up with someone like Rob Holding being a fifth choice centre back, and then he'll be like, "Well, see you later." The whole house of cards collapses. So I think with centre backs, I do think we do have viable long term options there. Mustafi is young as well for a centre back. He's still only mid-20s, so he's younger than Socrates. And then we've got Callum Chambers, who's out on loan, unfortunately getting himself turned inside out because he's got a manager that has never, ever built a defence in his life. This is not Chambers' fault. I'd like to remind our fans that Fulham came up with the most goals conceded ever by a promoted team in the Championship. Chambers wasn't there for that. And we've got Rob Holding as well, who, as you were saying, Danny, looks to have almost cemented himself a place in the team. And he's early 20s. So I think we do have long-term replacement options in there. And so long as someone comes through at Dortmund, we'll have him in our squad within a couple of seasons.
Jadon Sancho.
Oh, there's a player. If we're looking for a wide player, Jadon Sancho.
Oh,
I'm not overhyping him because he's English.
God,
I'm overhyping him because he's young. And I won't go to the point that he's probably the... Actually, no, I will.
Coming of Jesus?
Top 5 under 19 prospect in Europe.
Wow. There's 5 better than him in France. I'm telling you that right now.
I mean, Mbappe is one of them.
No, not even Mbappe.
Oh, you decided to do this 2 hours into the show. We've got
I could name you 5. I could name you 5 Lyon players better than Jadon Sancho right now.
And remember, Kris has Guendouzi prediction on his side. Josh, are you sure you want to gamble or do you want to stick?
Stick or twist. Well, he's going for the young boy that's from the West Country, aren't you? Uar.
Uar, that's one of them. Yeah, absolutely.
Uar in midfield for Lyon.
Uar, absolutely. Yeah.
Uar.
Tanguy Ndombele as well from Lyon. That's definitely 2.
I mean, but are they scoring goals regularly?
God, that's not their not their job. Our is, yes.
Uar.
No,
he's Uar, and I hope you bring that to French Football Weekly.
Speaking of that one, it's a little bit like Ibai Gomez. Try saying that without a northern accent.
That's true.
It is so true. Ibai Gomez, you just can't do it, can you? Yeah.
That Robertson at Liverpool, he played for Queen's Park and Dundee United in Scotland. I know he played for a couple, and he was at Celtic as a kid. Right, we've got 2 more questions, and then we're going to have no extras because I think we've been entertaining enough and there's no other nonsense, so this will be the end of the pod. A quick thing from Steve-O. He says, why isn't Jason on tonight? And he says, is he watching BBC 4 at 8 p.m, which is Power Struggles? Hugh Edwards presents the history of Wales. He recounts how the last 4... The lust for power and land by some medieval kings forged Wales into a nation. That's on iPlayer if people want to catch up with it. And our very own Goonaholic has just said something about a bit of wonderfulness on iPlayer. If you do get a chance, go and have a look at it. And I'm just trying to find where it was again. It's for God's sake, here we go. They shall not grow old. So go and watch that. They've got World War I footage and they've colorized it, and some of it's graphic, and it's just over an hour long, and it is really eye-opening. People complain now if their Wi-Fi is down. Bloody hell, you want to see what these young men had to put up with. 14 and 15-year-olds pretending to going in to join up to fight for World War I, and they said, how old are you? We go, I'm 15. You go, well, go back outside and have a birthday, and then come back in and tell me you're 18 or 17. Fuck, that's the kind of world they were living in. Were you going to say something about that, Josh, before I ask the last question?
It was directed by Peter Jackson in the Hobbit fame.
Was it shot in New Zealand?
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, and you've got Kris to do all the writing, which is why it goes on for 9 hours.
Final question. Not a question as such, but as Kris is on, I'd like to hear his take on Thierry's tough start at Monaco with back-to-back 4-0 defeats at home last week. I hope there's enough patience at board level and he gets enough time at the helm. Your thoughts, or my thought is that he's just biding his time before he shits on them and goes to Barcelona. But Kris, you can do 5 minutes on this if you want. I'll just settle down with my duvet. I am interested.
I just missed the first part. I gathered it was about Monaco. I missed the first part.
He says, not a question as such, but as Kris is on, I'd like to hear his take on Thierry Henry's tough start at Monaco with back-to-back 4-0 defeats at home.
Okay, I'll keep it briefish because, as you say, I could go on
we're
for
all
hours.
interested. We'd like to know.
Tune into this week's French Football Weekly. I'm sure we'll be dissecting it tomorrow when we record, but that's a tease. Basically, Thierry was the wrong man for the wrong club. Project Monaco is, as we know it, dead. Their president is having all sorts of issues on a legality side.
It wasn't that long. I know I don't know much about it. It wasn't that many years ago that Monaco did the similar thing, got relegated, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
What was that, 2005 or 6, something like that?
It was in the Park Chu-Young era, wasn't it? That's when they had him up front. That's how long ago that was.
Yeah, and they got relegated, sold him to us. Thanks.
The problem I think Thierry Henry is going to have there is that there's a huge amount of injuries at Monaco. That doesn't help for a start. But all of the best or the better players they've got have gone. There's the issue of the structure that's in place, essentially, when you've got the situation that they have, in terms of the players that they've got at their disposal. They're playing kids at the moment. I mean, they're fielding 16, 17-year-olds. Henry is the biggest problem he's going to have as a coach is that issue of he's going to look at the players he's got and think, why can you not do the things I'm asking you to do? I think he's really struggling with that side of things.
Does him being a legend, compare him as a legend at Monaco as a similar player would be a legend at Arsenal? He's not a Bergkamp or an Henry or an Adams at Monaco, is he?
Well, no,
or is he?
But he's not far off it. And the biggest people were pointing out something that happened on Sunday after Le Plastique, where they lost to PSG. They lost 4-0. It could have been 14. It was embarrassing, and Henry was still. He does this thing that he's doing on the touchline at the moment, where when Monaco concede a goal or they lose possession, he does this sort of thing where he's almost like gritting his teeth and going, "Oh God, they've done it again." He's a very visual. You know what he's like. He's a very suave, debonair individual, but he's very visual, and his tension is coming through on the touchline to some of these players, and it's just not a healthy blend. I feel sorry for him because he's taken this job with the hope that he can, set about his ways of management, and that he can stand out and take a club out of where they are. But the simple fact are they're joint bottom of Ligue 1. There's no win in sight. They've got your Cannes up next after the international break, Danny, so that's another defeat. And they aren't scoring goals. they just look listless. And I think the Bordeaux job was probably the one he should have taken. He didn't. And Monaco are in bits. And if Rybolovlev, if this carries on with him, I mean, I dread to think how many more players. They've got a few saleable assets left still. They're going to be gone sooner or later.
So if they do go down, will he stay with them?
Yeah, I think he will. Because he's, well, I mean, who else would have him? I don't think he'll get sacked or anything like that. But yeah, I think he will stay. And it's important to say at this stage as well, Patrick Vieira had the same sort of start to his career at Nice. You know, he struggled for the first few. I think they lost the first 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5.
Anelka's just joined Lille, is it?
I haven't seen that story actually.
Yeah,
was that today?
Joined Lille last week under Lille under 16s.
Was a coach.
Yeah.
Okay, I must admit I missed that. So you're ahead of me on that.
It, but that was from a transfer website, so they could well be wrong.
It's probably true, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, coaching takes time. You don't learn it overnight automatically. It's not easy to pick these things up. So yeah, I mean, I really hope it works out for Henry because, as I say, he's gone into a basket case for club right now, and it's a shame because this is the Monaco side that people forget. Less than 18 months ago, were ripping up Europe and had some of the most sellable talent in Europe. But who'd have thought?
Wanting more, where can they go to hear about you? Because it'll be a topic you're talking about tomorrow, won't it?
Yes, French Football Weekly.
What are they on Twitter at
FT Weekly, I believe, from memory. So yeah, if you do like a bit of French football, or if you just like hearing me wang on about stuff, then tune in. We're recording tomorrow night, and we usually have it out the same night as well. So yes, we will be talking.
Can I ask a quick Henry-related question?
You can.
Is he perhaps, and it came across that perhaps he might be one of these coaches that he struggles if the players are below his level?
That's exactly what we're saying. Yeah, you're bang on. Yeah.
What manager was doing that recently?
It was like Zola. Zola found it slightly difficult to cope if the players weren't.
Was Glenn Noddle had that reputation as well, didn't he?
Well, Glenn Noddle had a different reputation,
and
didn't he?
It's not that Henry expects these kids, because some of these kids that are playing, I mean, the lad that came on as debut at the weekend, 16, it's not that he expects them to be at his level, but it's that he finds it hard to coach basics because he played at such a high level. And people forget as well, Henry, as nice a bloke as he is, and he is a lovely bloke, he's a very intense bloke. He's a very deep thinker, and he wants to coach the Fraudiola way. He's a very... No, he's a he's got his ways that he wants his team to play. Whereas really what Monaco needed at the moment was a Sam Allardyce. Dare I say it? That obviously not, but you know what I mean. Sam Allardyce.
But George Weah's son still there.
He's at PSG.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, Monaco needed a firefighter. They didn't need a suave, debonair, pretty-looking guy who's clearly, he's got very, very good thoughts on the game, Thierry, and I think he will be a great coach. But I wonder if there's going to be a bit of Gary Neville first, if you know what I mean. There's one other actually quick thing that might make you both laugh. Did you hear about the managerial flub that happened today in Spain?
The
what?
About
this?
What?
A flood?
Flub. Solari has been given a 2.5-year deal.
No, I didn't know that. That's Real Madrid's chappie, isn't it? No. This one is the former Nantes coach, who's now been appointed the manager of Celta Vigo.
Yes, I did.
Miguel
see this.
Cardozo. So he's been announced the coach of Celta Vigo, and at his very first press conference, he said that he was honoured and delighted to be at one of the biggest clubs in Spain, Deportivo La Coruña, who just happened to be Celta Vigo's biggest rivals. Didn't go over well.
It's not like they're playing the same colour. One of them plays in purple and the other one plays in light blue.
But it's not like they even sound the same, is it? Like the names. So, little bit of a bollock dropped there, methinks.
And Harry Kewell's been sacked by Notts County.
Yeah, he has, yeah.
Sad. What kind of world do we live in?
Can't sack Harry Kewell.
Leave Dom to have a moment there.
Sacrilege, literally.
So who's the new Real Madrid manager?
The assistant, Solari.
He's just filling shoes till Christmas. Or
2.5-year deal they've given him.
Yeah, that means nothing. Right.
This is a good fact. You'll like this. David Moyes is still in his Man United contract. He's got 6 months left on it from the original one he signed.
And they're still paying off Pardew at Newcastle.
Alan Pardew has still got another year to run on his 8-year deal that he signed at Newcastle.
And Phil Brown got sacked by Swindon yesterday in Division 4.
Poor old Phil.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, I don't think Phil's poor.
We should move this on to gentlemen's nods. Have you two got anybody?
Let Kris go first. Everyone's going to hate mine.
I have got one, actually. I don't know if he's on Twitter, but I've asked our very own Jeff Arsenault if he can try and help him out. So I'll give him a shout because he said he listens to the pod. 2 seconds. It's Ryan Cost, who's a chap who I believe he's based in America.
I think he has recently rejoined Twitter because I'm sure Ryan Cost followed me the other day.
He probably did. So he's looking for. I've messaged our very own Jeff about this, but he hasn't read it yet. So Danny, when you speak to him next, he's looking for tickets for himself and his friend who are over.
Oh, yes, he is. He's at RMKOST.
Fantastic. There we go. So yeah, he's over in the UK with his. I think he said it's with his friend for the first time coming to the UK, and they're looking to go to the Fulham home game. So if anyone knows of any tickets that they can sort out for him, he would be very, very much appreciated of them.
Just gone and retweeted it.
I've asked Jeff as well, but yeah. So shout out to Ryan and to all of our lovely listeners. Who are fantastic as usual, and thank you all for listening, you wonderful people.
Josh,
so I've got 2 to balance out one of them. So I'll start. Do you want me to start with the good one or the bad one?
At this stage, I don't care. I need a poo.
Okay, we'll start with the bad one then. My first shout out is due to what he was saying regarding the whole Iceland situation. Piers Morgan. I think everybody knows his app. You've either got him blocked or you don't.
He's blocked me.
Yes.
The greatest things that ever happened to me.
As I don't think he eloquently put, but I put out earlier, Iceland's whole hypocritical thing with the orangutans, my fellow gingers, trying to get rid of palm oil, but they still stock Nutella. And the other one, which people should get behind, would be for at Ellis Mel. I believe that's his at Ellis
Who's
Mel.
that bloke?
I believe he goes by the hashtag fuck Ellis.
Oh, him.
That
that's
guy.
it.
Yeah, fuck Ellis.
Looks like a 60s porn star at the moment.
That is why I'm giving him a shout out.
Oh,
because he is doing Movember. For the rest of our sins, I believe he's the only one of the ABW group doing Movember this year.
Well, half of us can't.
I've already got one.
Yeah.
I had to get rid of mine, but because I'm up here, it's too cold.
You're on the run.
No, it's too cold. It's too cold if I shaved it off. But yeah, he's raising money for Men's Health Awareness Month. And I implore you, if you can give, don't put yourself in financial hardship. If you don't try to, but please, if you can give anything, please see the link on Ellis's timeline or on ours as well. I believe we've been retweeting it every time he's putting it out there. And all goes towards an excellent cause, like saving orangutans.
It's a little bit of a long thing, but it's ukmovember.com/MoSpace/120445561 and not 120 because O is a letter, not a number. You fucked hards. Go on, Kris.
Go to our timeline. That'll be easier than the link.
Yes.
I was just going to say, Danny, of course, your shout out this week is for at Barbican Pirates, I would imagine, surely.
Oh my God, that is right up there with that that game we were all at where we beat Everton 4-0 in the last game in 1998. That is your result getting through to it. You getting a semi at the weekend is.
I love a good semi.
Oh, I'll tell you what, tell people about it. It was beautiful. I was there. I was hiding in the bushes.
Hiding in the bushes. Well, we were away to Tamar View, one of our big rivals. Who cheated against us in the opening game of the season, so we owed them one. We were without our best player, whose lady had just given birth, so he was unavailable. We went 1-0 up early on, and then we conceded sort of 2 sloppy goals, 2-1 down. And then with around about 20 minutes to go, we've got an absolute belting goal from Josh Pope, 20-yard curler into the top right. It's an absolutely delicious goal. He was later sent off, unfortunately, because the referee thought he called him a cheat when he didn't, hilariously. And then, the game went straight to penalties, no extra time down here. And our goalkeeper saved a hat-trick of penalties, saved all 3 of their penalties. We scored all 3 of ours, went through 3-0 on pens. We're into the Cup semi-finals against.
Has that been held at Wembley?
Sadly not, no. But
Spurs have got it booked out.
Yes, after the NFL. But yeah, we'll play either Activate or Activate Seconds or South Brent, I think it is. So yeah, who knows? We could get to a cup final, but let's not count
your best player was giving birth at the time.
He was, yes, yeah, indeed.
I mean, because if he wasn't, he should be there.
He should be. It's poor performance.
If you get to the final, which you will, how can anybody come and watch it? Can we just turn up?
It's actually on Facebook Live. So if we get to the final, it is streamed live on Facebook.
We all want to come along. We'll all come down in the minibus, jump in my Volkswagen Charan.
That would be awesome. And I've already said if we did get to a cup final, I would suit it. Absolutely. I'd go
wear a suit or it'd fit you?
Yeah. No, I'd wear a suit. Damn straight, yeah. I'd milk that for all it's worth. But yeah, a long way to go yet, but I'm proud of my boys. Had a much, much better season this season. We got 4 games in hand in the league. We could go as high as 3rd if we win all 4. It's been a really, really good season and really enjoying it. So long may it continue.
Yes. And my gentleman's nod goes to Yvonne, who donated for the last 2 shows back to back, and Brendan gave us some dollary dues. So thank you very much for that, people. So, I thought I didn't do PC today. Turned on my PC and it decided no. It wouldn't even let me do a Control-Alt-Delete. So I called it a few choice names and they wouldn't even let me reset it. So I had to unplug it, plug it back in again. And that's not a good thing.
It's all that porn, Danny.
I told you, it's on an external that I bury in the garden. Yeah, it's on a bit of string.
Who downloads it these days anyway? Just stream it, you weirdos.
I don't. I
don't do streaming.
I just get John to relive his afternoons out.
All right, fine. Just get your old copies of Razzle out, Chris.
Those are the days.
Right, I think that is it, gentlemen. That's been, how long has this been going for? 2 hours and 20 minutes. Well done, Chris. Thanks. As soon as you're back, things go on for fucking ever. We've got it down to an hour. Goonaholic's sitting there shaking his head thinking, oh, God, this has gone on too long. Right, so...
it's international break. They need a longer show so that they can...
certainly do.
Yeah.
So we are working on a little something, short half-hour shows. We're going to see if we can line something up, and that might get 1 or 2 of them. Tomorrow, I'm meant to be doing a catch-up with George Bird and Mr. Goonaholic about the Arsenal youth system and the players and how they're getting on. And we did have a woman coming on, Gemma, who was who worked for Arsenal in their media department for the ladies. She said she was going to come on and do a pod. We're just going to come up to the time, and now she's been employed by the Manchester FA. So I'm not sure if she'll be able to come on, but I'm still going to ask her, talk about ladies football, because we've got the best ladies team in the country by a million miles. So all I have to do now is say thank you very much, Josh, for joining us.
It's been an absolute pleasure and great to be back on a podcast.
Good. And thank you very much, Kris, for joining us. You have been splendid.
Well, you're welcome. And yes, I shall endeavour to come back on again sometime.
Same time next year?
Same time next year, yeah, absolutely. People won't want me back after this.
Oh, would you like to close the show, Kris, in case it's the last time we hear from you this year?
Nanu, you cheeky monkeys.